Chapter 982. Why, you're actually still alive. The 10 protector clans have personally come. How did you make it back alive? You're actually still alive? How is that possible? The expressions of the saint rulers from the extinguishing alliance all changed drastically. They all cried out. Jian Chen's safe return was a great shock to them. All of them found it hard to believe. Although they had not personally witnessed the battle in the distance, they still knew that the 10 protector clans had all come. They believed that Jianqin should have died to the hands of the protector clans long ago. It was impossible for him to make it back alive. As for the battle in outer space, they believed that the protector clans had obtained the winged tiger from Jianqin, and a battle had erupted over the winged tiger. They had never thought that Jianqin would make it back alive. Jianqin could not help but sneer when he saw how shocked the saint rulers were. He said, "Looks like you're eager for me to die here, but you're fated to be disappointed. Not only am I still alive, but I'm even alive. The protector clans can't do anything to me." Impossible, that's impossible. The protector clans are the most powerful clans on the Tianyuan continent. They're extremely powerful. So how can they not do anything to you? Jianqin, have you reached some sort of agreement with the protector clans? A saint ruler asked with a heavy voice. His face was extremely ugly. Jianqin sneered. "You don't have the right to know about this. Now, I'll make you pay the price for your foolish decision back then. Today, the Flame Mercenaries will regain control of Flame City. No one can stop me, not even the protector clans of the continent." Jianqin's voice was extremely loud. It reverberated through the surroundings, allowing everyone in the city to hear him clearly. Immediately, the people of the Extinguished Alliance began to panic. Many of them were filled with fear. The people who had originally belonged to the Flame Mercenaries before joining the Extinguished Alliance all began to regret their decision. If they had known earlier that Jianqin would return in such a powerful manner, they would have never joined the Extinguished Alliance no matter what. The saint rulers of the Extinguished Alliance all became sheet white. After witnessing Jianqin's strength, they had lost all will to resist. Even the Holy Emperor could easily kill Yifei, who was at the 5th heavenly layer. So how were they supposed to fight him with their strength? Although they possessed an advantage in numbers, the difference between saint rulers and the Holy Emperor was like a chasm. "Jianqin, we will immediately lead our people out of Flame City and swear that we will never become enemies with your Flame Mercenaries again," said Saint Ruler. He had changed the way he referred to Flame City from Extinguished Flame City to Flame City. "You caused so much trouble for my Flame Mercenaries in the past and occupied my city for so long. Do you really want to settle this debt so easily? It won't be that easy." Jianqin sneered as killing intent flickered in his eyes. Jianqin's killing intent caused the saint rulers of the Extinguished Alliance to become even paler. One of them hurriedly explained, "Jianqin, listen to us. It was the Baiyan King who told us to do all that back then. We had no other choice. The main culprit was the Baiyan King, not us." Jianqin's eyes turned cold. He coldly said, "Do you really think that I, Jianqin, am as easy to trick as a 3-year-old?" As he said that, the Emperor armament appeared in his hand. It radiated with terrifying pulses of energy, causing the surrounding space to distort and almost shatter. The saint rulers became even more panicked. One of them said, "Jianqin, what do you want for us to be spared? You're dreaming if you want me to let you go. Today, I, Jianqin, will annihilate you all," Jianqin mercilessly said. The saint rulers all trembled when they heard that. Despair gradually appeared in their hearts. But there were still some people who refused to give up. They said, "Jianqin, if you let us go, I'm willing to lead my people and submit to you. I'll become a part of your Flame Mercenaries and serve you." Jianqin's face did not change at all. He remained cold, and the killing intent in his eyes did not decrease at all. He sneered, "So many of my brothers died to your hands back then. If you become a part of the Flame Mercenaries, Not only will I not be able to give an explanation to my brothers who died, I won't be able to give an explanation to the brothers you chased out of Flame City either. Only by killing you can I vent my anger." The Saint Rulers of the Extinguished Alliance fell into complete despair when they heard that. They all understood that only death awaited them today after hearing what Genshin had said. "Pay the price for what you did back then." Genshin bellowed out. He did not waste any more words with them. He aggressively charged toward the Saint Rulers with his Emperor armament filled with killing intent. With the Emperor armament in hand, Genshin's battle prowess was equivalent to the 7th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. He was so powerful that the Saint Rulers could not stop him. As he stabbed out with the Emperor armament, he killed 3 Saint Rulers in a single clash. The sword directly pierced their foreheads, wiping out their souls. The other Saint Rulers all scattered when they saw that the situation was bad. They fled in all directions as quickly as they could in an attempt to distract Genshin and make time to escape. Although they knew that the chances were extremely slim, this was their only chance at survival. Even if they knew that they would die, they still had to try. Genshin's face sank. Although he possessed the battle prowess of the Holy Emperor, his comprehension of the mysteries of the world was far too low. He was only a 7th heavenly layer Saint Ruler, so it was impossible for him to rip open space and cross millions of kilometers in a single moment. If the Saint Rulers fled far away, it would be very difficult for him to catch them. Genshin looked back at Ruijin and Blackfish. He said, "Senior Ruijin, please seal up this region of space and stop them from escaping." Genshin had to kill the Saint Rulers of the Extinguished Alliance. Only then would he be able to avenge the loss of Flame City. He would not leave them alive at all. Ruijin nodded silently. He extended a finger, and the energy in the surroundings immediately began to pulse violently. It formed a transparent barrier that enveloped a radius of 10 kilometers, trapping all the Saint Rulers of the Extinguished Alliance inside. The Saint Rulers immediately became crazy when they saw that their path of escape had been blocked. They attacked the barrier desperately in hopes of breaking through. However, how could they break through a barrier personally cast down by Ruijin? When their most powerful attacks landed on the barrier did not even shake at all. "I'd like to see where you can run off to now." Genshin's killing intent skyrocketed. He reaped their lives one by one with the Emperor armament. Although there were a few people who tried to resist, their resistance was powerless before Genshin. It was completely useless. In the blink of an eye, all the Saint Rulers of the Extinguished Alliance had been slain by Genshin. The barrier around the region vanished, and the corpses of over 20 Saint Rulers fell from the sky, landing heavily on the ground. Many people from the Extinguished Alliance had personally witnessed the death of the Saint Rulers. All of them became stunned as despair filled their eyes. Genshin's fury finally subsided slightly after killing the Saint Rulers. He looked at the several million members of the Extinguished Alliance in the city and hesitated slightly. In the end, he did not kill them. As his strength increased, both Genshin's outlook and mental fortitude increased as well. With his current identity and status, he could no longer be bothered to fuss with these ant-like people. At the same time, there were several million people in the city. If he killed all of them, he would have committed a great massacre and would suffer the punishment of celestial decay. This was because existences above Saint Ruler could no longer kill ordinary people as they wished. It did not matter if they killed a few, but once they killed too many, they would suffer the punishment of celestial decay. The celestial decay was a method to restrain Saint Rulers and protect the weaker groups. However, battles between Saint Rulers and those above Saint Ruler were not affected by the celestial decay. People of the Extinguished Alliance, leave the city immediately if you want to live, Genshin called out as he hovered in the air. When the people of the Extinguished Alliance heard what he said, the flames of hope immediately reignited in their hearts. They all became excited, and without any hesitation, they immediately packed their things and left the city with their families. 2 figures descended from the sky. The Grand Elder of Mercenary City Tianjin and Houston, had arrived at the same time. The two of them hovered to one side as they watched the people of the extinguished alliance leave one by one. They faintly smiled. Looks like our worries were unnecessary. Jianqin hasn't been blinded by hatred. He hasn't started a massacre in the city, Houston said in relief. Sigh, Jianqin is just too young after all. He possesses such great strength at such a young age. If he can't control himself and ends up walking the path of evil, it'll be the misfortune of the Tianyuan continent. But it looks like our worries were unnecessary. Jianqin may be young and can be a little rash at times, but he's fine for the most part. Tianjin gently sighed. In just a few short years, his strength has reached such an unbelievable level. He's even obtained the Emperor armament and a divine hall. He must have experienced quite a lot of slaughter in the past few years. Once he's done with his matters, I'll let him stay in Longevity Valley for 10 years so that he can calm down. It'll be beneficial to him, Houston indifferently said. Several more figures descended from the sky. The great elders of the Protector clan of Changyang Prefecture had arrived at the same time. They hovered nearby as they watched the city, quietly. Sai, he still wants to take back the city and develop his own organization. What should we do? Changyang Zushao sighed at the sky. He felt helpless. The Protector clan of Changyang Prefecture could no longer control Jianqin's fate. Even if Jianqin wanted to take back the city and break the rules of the Protector clans, the people of Changyang Prefecture could only stand aside and watch. They could not stop him. Chapter 983. Jianqin obviously noticed the arrival of Houston, Tianjin, and the great elders from Changyang Prefecture. Jianqin dismissed his feelings and glanced at the people from Changyang Prefecture before casually looking at Tianjin and Houston. He immediately flew over and bowed politely to Tianjin and Houston. He said, "Greetings to Senior Tianjin and Uncle Xiao." Although Jianqin was already a mighty expert, he still felt respect for Tianjin and Houston from the bottom of his heart. This respect would not waver as his strength increased. Tianjin looked at Jianqin with mixed feelings and gently sighed. "When I first saw you, it was during the King of Mercenaries competition in Mercenary City. You were only a puny Earth Saint Master back then, and it's only been a little over a decade since then, yet your strength has already reached such an unbelievable level. It really is unbelievable." Tianjin sighed emotionally. His face was filled with melancholy, as if he had thought back to when he first met Jianqin. Jianqin's gaze immediately became absent-minded when he heard that, as if he had also thought back to what had happened back then. Houston looked at Jianqin happily and said with his old voice, "Jianqin, you really haven't disappointed me." It was just a short sentence, but it revealed Houston's happiness and recognition of Jianqin. Jianqin and Houston chatted for a while before Tianjin said, "Jianqin, the great elders of the Protector clan of Changyang Prefecture, are right in front of us. You're a direct descendant of Changyang Prefecture after all, so you should go over and take a look." With that, Jianqin turned around and stared at the great elders of Changyang Prefecture. The light in his eyes flickered, and after a moment of hesitation, he did not go over in the end. "Jianqin, you've just returned from the Sea Realm, so there are still many things for you to do. Go deal with your own matters first. Once you're done with them, come to Longevity Valley." "I have some things I want to ask you," said Uncle Xiao. He was filled with doubts about Jianqin's divine hall, but he did not choose to mention it right now. "Yes, Uncle Xiao," replied Jianqin. Afterward, Houston directly ripped open a hole in space and left. He returned to Longevity Valley with a hoe to continue farming. Jianqin, Mingdong, and Taita are cultivating in Mercenary City. Taita's status is rather special, so come to Mercenary City when you have the time, said Tianjin. As soon as he heard about Mercenary City, Jianqin could not help but think of his parents' corpses in Mercenary City. His stone-like heart immediately began to ache. "Senior Tianjin, once I deal with my current matters, I'll head to Mercenary City immediately, Jianqin said firmly. Originally, he wanted to revive his parents as soon as he returned to the Tianyuan continent, but after being gone for so long and with what had happened to the Flame Mercenaries, he began to miss Bai Lian and the others very much. He wanted to go home and take a look. Tianjian glanced at Jianqin deeply before leaving as well, returning to Mercenary City. At this moment, only Ruijin, Blackfish, and the great elders of the protector clans of Changyang Prefecture remained in the sky aside from Jianqin. The great elders of Changyang Prefecture stood in the distance as they stared at Jianqin with mixed feelings. Originally, they wanted to say something to Jianqin, but when they thought about what Jianqin had said to the other protector clans and the choice they had made back then, they all fell silent. Back then, they had indeed not dared to stand beside Jianqin and help him fend off the other protector clans, but they were filled with regret now. If they had known earlier that Jianqin had Ruijin and Blackfish, two supreme experts who dared to fight against the Holy Emperor, they would not have needed to fear the other protector clans at all. Jianqin arrived before Ruijin and Blackfish. After thanking them once more, he said, Senior Ruijin, "May I ask if you can create a space gate to the kingdom of Jessen for me?" In the past, Ruijin obviously would not have agreed as the emperor of the Dragon Clan. However, things were different now. He agreed without any hesitation and personally ripped open a space gate for Jianqin. Jianqin left through the space gate and directly returned to Lore City in the kingdom of Jessen. Ruijin and Blackfish followed him as well, following behind Jianqin into the city. The great elders of the protector clan of Changyang Prefecture watched Jianqin leave. None of them said anything. They all knew that Jianqin did not want to admit that he was a part of the protector clan of Changyang Prefecture. After a long while, Changyang Zhu Xiao sighed at the sky and said, expelling Changyang Zhu Yunkong from the clan back then was a mistake. Looking at it now, it seems like we've made another mistake. The great elders of Changyang Prefecture all fell silent. A while later, Changyang Qingyin said, Let's go. Let's go to Changyang Prefecture in Lore City. Jianqin's return to Changyang Prefecture excited the entire prefecture. All the old people and important people of Changyang Prefecture came out to welcome him. The leaders were Changyang Zhu Yeyun and Changyang Zhu Yunkong, known as the Changyang ancestor. Changyang Zhu Yeyun felt very grateful to Jianqin. As soon as she saw Jianqin, she did not act like a senior at all. She warmly grabbed Jianqin's hand and thanked him profusely. This was because Changyang Zuyun understood that if it were not for Jianqin, she probably would not have been able to see her son for the rest of her life. Jianqin had already learned the middle-aged woman's identity from Changyang Zhu Yunkong. She was actually the mother of his great-grandfather. He was immediately surprised and immediately bowed to her as a senior. Although Jianqin did not have any good feelings towards the Protector clan, she was still the mother of his great-grandfather. My great-grandson has finally returned. The most outstanding member of my Bai family has finally returned safely. Bai Hai smiled as he watched this from afar. Tears of joy had already begun to flow from his eyes. Jianqin's first aunt, Linglong, and second aunt, Yu Fengyan, also watched this with a smile. The two of them had already begun to view Jianqin as their own son. Only Bai Yushuang's expression became rather mixed. Deep jealousy filled her eyes because she could not help but think of her own son when she saw Jianqin. Jianqin was already a peak expert on the Tianyuan continent, and he had even made a name for himself on the continent. On the other hand, her son was still mediocre. He had neither a name for himself nor strength for himself. He was already in his 30s, yet he had only just become a great saint master. He had not even become an earth saint master. Jianqin chatted with the people of Changyang Prefecture for a while before calling Yu, Bai Lian, and the other members of the upper echelon of the Flame Mercenaries to where he lived. After all these years of development, the Flame Mercenaries had gained many loyal members of the upper echelon. Aside from Yu and Bai Lian, there were over 40 other members of the upper echelon. Ever since Flame City had been taken away, they had led a portion of the mercenaries over 100,000 kilometers to Lore City before settling down in Changyang Prefecture. Jianqin secretly nodded as he looked at the upper echelon of the mercenaries. He said, "I've already taken back Flame City that the Extinguishing Alliance had taken away. May I ask what the current situation of the Flame mercenaries is like?" A sliver of joy immediately appeared on everyone's faces when they heard that Flame City had been taken back. Yu said, "Jianqin, after all these years of development, the Flame mercenaries originally had several 100,000 members. Quite a few Heaven Saint Masters joined us, so our strength grew by the day. However, ever since the war with the Flame Extinguishing Alliance, the Flame mercenaries have basically fallen apart. They've either left or scattered. Only a few tens of thousands of people remain loyal to us." Several tens of thousands. Jianqin frowned slightly. This number was much lower than he had imagined. The Extinguishing Alliance had indeed dealt an unimaginable blow to the Flame mercenaries several years ago. Jianqin stood up from his chair and said, "Since these people are loyal to the Flame mercenaries and are willing to follow us, you can nurture them as elites. Also, take the remaining members of the Flame mercenaries and head to Flame City tomorrow. We'll retake Flame City and revive the Flame mercenaries." Just as Jianqin was discussing the development of the Flame mercenaries with the upper echelon of the Flame mercenaries, the great elders of the Protector clan of Changyang Prefecture arrived at the same time. They immediately called Changyang Zhu Yinkong to a secret room and held a secret conversation. The entire room was enveloped by a powerful barrier, so no one knew what was going on inside. Jianqin obviously knew about their arrival, so he could not help but pause his discussion of the Flame mercenaries. The light in Jianqin's eyes flickered as he became surprised and doubtful. The conversation between the great elders of the Protector clan of Changyang Prefecture and Changyang Jiankong did not last for very long. They emerged from the secret room very soon and did not linger at all. They directly ripped open space and returned to the Protector clan. Only Changyang Zhuyin Shao remained behind. He was filled with helplessness. Jianqin discussed with the upper echelon of the Flame mercenaries for 2 whole hours before finally settling on the future development of the Flame mercenaries. He emerged from the room. Changyang Zhuyin Shao and Changyang Zun had already been waiting outside for quite some time. Their gazes were filled with mixed feelings as they watched Jianqin emerge from the room. Jianqin's gaze was no longer as cold as before when he looked at Changyang Zhuyin Shao. He had already learned about the details of the Extinguishing Alliance's battle for Flame City from Yu and Bai Lian. He also knew that Yu and the others had only managed to return to Lore City safely because of Changyang Zhuyin Shao's assistance. If it were not for Changyang Zhuyin Shao, they probably would not have even been able to reach Kaiser's level. "Jianqin, we have some matters that we want to discuss with you alone," Changyang Zhuyin Shao gently said. "Is it because of my identity?" "If it is, there's no need for us to talk," Jianqin said. Changyang Zhuyin Shao gently sighed. "Jianqin, you've only guessed half of it. Not only does this matter concern your identity, but it also concerns the future of your great-grandfather, Changyang Zhuyinkong." Chapter 984. Jianqin's eyes immediately narrowed when he heard that the matter was related to the future of his great-grandfather. He could ignore the Protector clans, but Jianqin could not ignore his great-grandfather no matter what. This was because only he understood just how much pain his great-grandfather had endured. Back on 3 Saint Island, his great-grandfather had basically lived a life worse than death. Afterward, Jianqin arrived in a secret room with the couple. Changyang Zhuyin Shao personally cast down a barrier that enveloped the entire room. Jianqin immediately shivered inside when he saw how cautious Changyang Zhuyin Shao was. He understood that the matter he wanted to discuss was probably nothing simple. After casting down the barrier, Changyang Zhuyin Shao and Changyang Zun sat before Jianqin. The two of them looked at Jianqin with extremely mixed feelings. Given their esteemed statuses, this was the first time they had to treat a junior as equals and treat him with respect. Jianqin sat on the cold ground as he calmly stared at the couple. He did not say anything. Changyang Zuyanshao had no choice but to break the silence when he saw how Jianqin had no intentions of speaking. He coughed twice and said, "I wonder if I should call you Jianqin or Changyang Shoten." "Great-grandfather, just call me Jianqin. I like that name a lot, and I've been using it for so long. I don't want to change it back," Jianqin replied without any hesitation. Changyang Zuyanshao was Changyang Zuyinkong's father, so who knew how many years older than Jianqin. As a result, Jianqin always referred to them as great-grandmother. Changyang Zuyanshao sucked in a deep breath and helplessly said, "All right, I'll call you Jianqin then." Changyang Zuyanshao paused before continuing, "Jianqin, I've actually asked you to come this time because of your great-grandfather. You must know about the seal in his head, right?" Jianqin nodded and said nothing. He continued to wait for Changyang Zuyanshao to continue. A sliver of pain appeared on Changyang Zuyanshao's face. He said, "Back then, Yunkong was expelled from the clan because of his great mistake. We placed a seal in his head, preventing him from ever becoming a saint ruler as punishment. Originally, it was impossible for Yunkong to be a member of our protector clan in Changyang Prefecture, but this changed 10 years ago. Due to certain reasons, the great elders of the protector clan removed Yunkong's punishment at the same time and accepted him back into the clan, allowing him to become a member of the protector clan in Changyang Prefecture again." Changyang Zuyanshao paused there. He stared at Jianqin deeply and said, "Jianqin, do you know why the great elders of Changyang Prefecture removed Yunkong's punishment and accepted him back into the clan?" Jianqin's heart skipped a beat when he heard that. He said, "If I've guessed correctly, it's probably because of the winged tiger in my possession. If I become a member of the protector clan in Changyang Prefecture, the winged tiger basically belongs to Changyang Prefecture as well." "Correct, it's indeed because of you. It's only because of your existence that Yunkong has the hope of returning to the protector clan," said Changyang Zuyanshao. He purposefully avoided the topic of the winged tiger. Although Yunkong has been accepted back into the protector clan, the seal in his head has not been removed. Yunkong may have become a saint ruler, but due to the seal, his strength will never increase at all. Jianqin, you're Yunkong's descendant after all. I don't think you're willing to just watch your great-grandfather's strength remain at the first heavenly layer of saint ruler forever. I hope you can help your great-grandfather and remove the seal in his head." Changyang Zuyanxiao's voice was filled with pleading. Even though the person before him was his descendant, he was unable to forcefully order Jianqin to do anything. "What do you need me to do? What are the conditions for removing my great-grandfather's seal?" Jianqin asked. Jianqin already had a certain understanding of the seal in Changyang Zuyinkong's head. The seal had been created by the Holy Emperor of the Protector clan using a secret technique. Not only was it extremely powerful, but it was also extremely profound. Even the artifact spirit of a saint artifact was helpless against it. Although the Holy Emperor could forcefully remove the seal, they would definitely injure Changyang Zuyinkong. If they forcefully removed the seal, Changyang Zuyinkong's soul would probably be wiped out the moment the seal was removed. If he wanted to break this seal without harming anyone, he would need the corresponding secret technique. Changyang Zuyanshao said, "The other great elders of the Protector clan have spoken. They say that if we want to remove the seal in Yunkong's head, Yunkong needs to contribute greatly to the clan and be prosecuted. This contribution is to bring you back to the Protector clan to acknowledge your ancestors." Jianqin's face sank slightly. He faintly sneered, "Just as I thought. I guessed that your Protector clan would definitely do something like this. You're probably just trying to get me to acknowledge my ancestors. You're trying to take the winged tiger away." "Jianqin, I know you have some prejudices against the Protector clans, But with your current strength, we no longer have the right to make you do something you don't want to do. Due to this matter, the great elders of the protector clans have already reached an agreement. We can forego the winged tiger from Changyang Prefecture and help you fend off the pressure from the other protector clans. However, the prerequisite is that you have to be a member of our protector clan in Changyang Prefecture, said Changyang Zuyinshao. I already have enough power to fend off the other protector clans. I don't need your help, said Jianqin. Sigh, Jianqin. You've underestimated the protector clans far too easily. I know you have the protection of the Divine Hall and that no one below the Holy Emperor can harm you. But your Divine Hall is not unbreakable in the eyes of the protector clans. If it weren't for the Grand Elder of Mercenary City doing his best to stop the battle today, your Divine Hall probably would have been destroyed by the Yuan sect long ago, said Changyang Zuyinshao. Jianqin's heart skipped a beat when he heard that. He could not help but think of the emperor armament that the great elders of the Yuan sect had mentioned. However, just when he wanted to ask about it, Changyang Zuyinshao began to explain. Every single one of us 10 protector clans possess an emperor armament. The emperor armament has existed for an extremely long time, having existed since the founding of the protector clans, said Jianqin. The power of the emperor armament has definitely exceeded your imagination because it was forged by several dozen or even over 100 holy emperor experts. It's one of the 2 great treasures of our protector clans. Our protector clans have existed for an extremely long time on the Tianyuan continent. We've never stopped possessing holy emperor experts. We've basically had one in every generation. During the most glorious era, our Changyang Prefecture had 8 holy emperors at the same time. They were extremely powerful. However, something happened in the world afterwards, making it more and more difficult for all of us to break through. Not only was our continent affected, but even the Beast God continent and the Desolate continent where the 100 races resided were affected. In the end, there was a lack of holy emperor experts in our protector clans. In the past, most holy emperor experts in our Changyang Prefecture would pour all their energy and vitality into the emperor armament when they reached the end of their lives, allowing the emperor armament to rapidly grow in power. The emperor armament of our protector clans has fused with the power of several dozen or even over 100 holy emperor experts. So it's extremely powerful now. It's far more powerful than the emperor armament in your hands. Your divine hull can't endure the power of a single emperor armament. Jianqin became rather stern. He said, "Looks like the Yuan sect wanted to use the emperor armament against me back then." That's right. The Yuan sect did indeed want to use the emperor armament against you back then, but they were stopped by the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. Otherwise, your divine hall would have been destroyed long ago. Changyang Zuyinshao said, "However, the emperor armament is just too powerful. Even a holy emperor at great perfection would struggle to control it. As a result, several holy emperors have to work together to use the emperor armament, and they would suffer a backlash from the emperor armament. After using the emperor armament, even a holy emperor at great perfection would be injured by the backlash. As a result, the emperor armament has become a taboo artifact in our protector clans. It's only used when outsiders invade or when the clan is in danger. It's used as a last resort." Jianqin immediately fell silent after hearing that. Only now did he understand that the protector clans were not as simple as he had imagined them to be. They actually possessed such a terrifying god artifact, and it was all thanks to Tian Jian stopping him that day. Otherwise, he might not have died, but the divine hull of the 8 wastelands would have been destroyed. Looking at the silent Jianqin, Changyang Zuyinshao continued, "Jianqin, it's best if you return to Changyang Prefecture. Once you acknowledge your ancestors, you'll be a member of our protector clan. If the Yuan sect continues to use the emperor armament against you, our Changyang Prefecture will definitely interfere. As for the matter of the flame mercenaries, we'll try to convince the other protector clans." Changyang Zuyunshao's voice was filled with hope. Changyang Zuyun also said, Jianqin, great-grandmother knows that you don't like our Chanyang prefecture, but we hope that you can consider for whether the seal in Ai's head can be removed and whether he can reach a higher level of cultivation in the future will all depend on you. Chanyang Zuyun's voice was filled with pleading. Jianqin could not help but hesitate. This matter was related to his great-grandfather, so he needed to consider it carefully. This was because no one other than the protector clans of Chanyang Prefecture could remove the seal, not even the Holy Emperor. After quite a while of hesitation, Jianqin still nodded and agreed in the end. He said, "All right, for my great-grandfather's smooth cultivation, I agree to visit the protector clan with you. However, the time is not now. I need to finish some matters first." Chanyang Zuyin Shao and Chanyang Zuyun immediately rejoiced when they heard that. They became overjoyed. Jianqin, Chanyang Zuyin Shao, and Chanyang Zuyun emerged from the secret room after the matter was settled. As soon as they arrived outside, they saw Ruijin and Blackfish waiting there. Chanyang Zuyun Xiao's gaze immediately changed when he saw the two of them. Some respect vaguely appeared. This was respect for experts. The two people before him were powerful figures that even the Path Lord of Carnal Desires and Lankyros could not do anything to. Even the protector clans could not afford to offend them. "Senior Ruijin, Senior Blackfish, do you need anything?" Jianqin asked the two of them. Chapter 985. Chanyang Zuyin Shao saw how Blackfish treated Jianqin, so he naturally became excited. As his great-grandson and a descendant of the Chanyang Prefecture, he obviously hoped that Jianqin and Blackfish would be as close as possible. That way, the Chanyang Prefecture would benefit as well. Jianqin's heart warmed when he heard the concern in Blackfish's voice. He said to the two of them, "Senior Ruijin, Senior Blackfish, my Chanyang Prefecture welcomes the two of you as guests. If you like this place, why don't you stay for a few more days?" Blackfish glanced at Ruijin after hearing what Jianqin had said. He then smiled at Jianqin. "We really do want to do that. There just happens to be nowhere else on the Tianyuan continent that we can go, so we might as well stay in your Chanyang Prefecture in the future. I hope we won't cause you any trouble." Jianqin was overjoyed when he heard that. With the two of them staying, the defenses of Chanyang Prefecture would basically be impenetrable. Even if the protector clans personally came, they would not be able to do anything. "You're too kind. It's my honor that the two of you are willing to stay in my tiny residence. We can't even welcome you enough, so how could we cause any trouble?" Jianqin hurriedly replied. He was extremely excited inside. Chanyang Zuyin Shao also became excited. He hurriedly said some pleasantries. Only Chanyang Zuyun, who did not know the identities and strength of Ruijin and Blackfish, was filled with doubt. However, with how her husband treated the two of them, she could guess that Ruijin and Blackfish's identities were definitely not simple. Afterward, Jianqin hurriedly ordered the servants of the residence to specially arrange the best courtyards for Ruijin and Blackfish so that the two of them could stay. However, Jianqin remained very doubtful the entire time. His relationship with Ruijin and Blackfish was not particularly friendly. They could even be described as strangers who had met by chance, so he could not understand why Ruijin and Blackfish would help him without any regard for the consequences. Not only did they become enemies with the Path Lord of Carnal Desires and the Holy Emperor of the Beast God continent, but the two of them had even personally waited outside when he was discussing with Chanyang Zuyin Shao. This greatly surprised Jianqin. Ignoring their great strength, just Ruijin's status as the king of the dragon clan was countless times greater than Jianqin's. Is it because of the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger? Is the reason why Ruijin and Blackfish are doing everything they can to help me and even stay by my side to protect the winged tiger? The more Jianqin thought about it, the more he felt that this was very likely. Afterwards, he came to an understanding. The next morning, many unfamiliar guests arrived outside Chanyang Prefecture in Lore City. They all brought priceless gifts as they made their way to the entrance of the Changyang Prefecture. They then politely communicated with the guards and only set foot in Changyang Prefecture after obtaining permission. These guests were all members of ancient clans. They were personally led by an ancestor who had reached the level of the Holy Emperor to pay a visit. There were a total of over a dozen clans in the tiny Changyang Prefecture of Lore City, and the number was constantly increasing. Every single clan had brought over a dozen important people with them. Changyang Prefecture immediately became lively with the arrival of these people. It alarmed all the upper echelon of Changyang Prefecture. As the Changyang ancestor of Lore City, Changyang Zhu Yinkong immediately came out to receive them personally. Even Jianqin had appeared. Although these people possessed great statuses, they all behaved extremely amiably when they came to Changyang Prefecture today. They did not put on any airs at all, and some of them even seemed rather restrained. When Jianqin appeared before them, all the ancestors of the ancient clans gathered around him. They all smiled amiably as they constantly praised Jianqin. Their words were filled with flattery. The ancestors of the ancient clans had all personally witnessed Jianqin fending off the protector clans. They knew that an unprecedented genius of the Tianyuan continent had already matured at an unstoppable rate. He had become a terrifying existence that they could not help but fear before he was even 50 years old. Even the protector clans were helpless against him. Every single ancestor of the ancient clans was shrewd with age. They had all witnessed Jianqin's terrifying talent and limitless accomplishments. They all predicted that Jianqin would definitely become an existence on par with the Holy Emperor in the future. So they all hurried over to pay a visit. They wanted to establish a good relationship with Jianqin before he became a Holy Emperor. Brother Jianqin, I never thought that you would have already become a mighty expert. Even my ancestor has to treat you with respect. I really am envious. At this moment, a charming voice rang out from nearby, clearly landing in Jianqin's ears. Jianqin looked in the direction of the voice and saw a woman in a pink dress standing between an old couple. Her eyes were filled with mixed feelings as she stared at him. The moment he saw the woman, Jianqin could not help but think back to the martial competition of Mercenary City. He immediately felt melancholy, but he did not show it on his face. He smiled at the woman. Miss Tianmu Ling, I never thought that you would come as well. The woman was Tianmu Ling from the Tianmu clan. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed, but Tianmu Ling's appearance was still the same as before. She had not aged at all. The only difference was that she was more mature than before. Oh my, brother Jianqin, I never thought that after so many years, you would still remember me. I'm so excited that I can't control myself, Tianmu Ling giggled. Tianmu Ling giggled. Her laughter was like hundreds of flowers blooming, giving her a different kind of charm. She didn't care about the strange gazes the ancestors of the ancient clans were giving her. Tianmu Ling was probably the only person who dared to speak to Jianqin so fearlessly in this place. However, Tianmu Ling's heart was nowhere near as calm as it seemed on the surface. In reality, her heart had already been thrown into turmoil long ago. She was not calm at all. Back then, she had been at the same level as Jianqin. They had both participated in the martial competition of Mercenary City and were ranked as one of the 5 great experts. Back then, there was a slight difference in strength between her and Jianqin, but it was not to the point where it could not be made up for. But now Jianqin, who had once been one of the 5 great experts with her, had become a supreme expert of great might. He stood on the same level as her ancestor, and the Saint King ancestors of many ancient clans had personally come to visit him. They had even treated him with great respect and politeness. Just how glorious was that? On the other hand, she was still an Earth Saint Master. Although she had improved a lot in the past few years, the difference between her and Jianqin was so great that it left her tongue-tied. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. At this moment, Tianmu Ling's feelings were extremely complicated. She felt an indescribable admiration for Jianshin's current accomplishments, as well as a sliver of admiration. Sigh, back then we were at the same level of strength, but now he's actually become an unreachable existence that I can only look up to. Tianwu Ling sighed inside. Ha ha ha! I never thought that Jianshin would actually be acquainted with my great-granddaughter. This really is my great-granddaughter's honor. The holy emperor of the Tianmu clan immediately became overjoyed when he saw how close Jianshin and Tianwu Ling were. He laughed happily. The next day, the guests from the ancient clans all left. Afterward, many ancestors from hermit clans came to pay a visit out of admiration, but they were all received by Jianshin, by Changyang Zuyunkong, and by Hai. He did not appear himself. Instead, he left Changyang Prefecture alone and hurried toward Mercenary City. At the same time, the remaining people of the Flame Mercenaries left Lore City under the lead of the upper echelon. They formed a long line and advanced toward Flame City. Jianshin left the kingdom of Jessen by himself. He hurried toward Mercenary City with mixed feelings and excitement. He had already become a Class 7, Radiant Saint Master, and possessed the ability to revive the dead. He could already revive his parents. As soon as he thought about how his dead parents were about to be revived, Jianshin was filled with uncontainable excitement. He had been looking forward to this day for far, far too long. Just as Jianshin was thinking about his parents, something happened. The space around him immediately froze, forming a tough block of ice that firmly bound Jianshin. The sudden change greatly surprised Jianshin. All the miscellaneous thoughts in his head vanished in a single instant. He glared ahead, and immediately, two shocking streaks of light shot out from his eyes. An old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion had appeared at some point in time. The old man hovered 50 meters in front of him as he coldly stared at him. Yi Yangzi of the Yuan sect. It's actually you. Jianshin bellowed. Surging killing intent and fury rapidly rose up in his heart, burning like a ball of fire. Jianshin, our Yuan sect is a mighty protector clan. How can a brat like you insult us so casually? Moreover, you heavily injured our great elder Ling Yuanzi, causing him to lose his body and only leave behind his soul. Our Yuan sect must avenge this enmity. Since ancient times, no one has been able to survive after offending our protector clan, even if you have the support of the Changyang Prefecture, Yi Yangzi coldly said. Yi Yangzi said coldly before directly pointing at Jianshin. He said softly, Guiyuan's secret scripture, index finger of the five-finger mountain. As Yi Yangzi extended his finger, the invisible world force condensed in a single moment. It formed a 3-inch-long finger that shot towards Jianshin with lightning speed. The finger pierced through space and shattered time. It arrived before Jianshin in an instant, aiming straight for his forehead. Yi Yangzi clearly wanted to kill Jianshin. His finger shot toward Jianshin's forehead, intending to destroy Jianshin's soul. Chapter 986. Yi Yangzi was extremely powerful. He was the strongest person in Yi Yuan school. His strength had already reached the complete realm of the Holy Emperor. The space that he had solidified was extremely sturdy. Jianshin could not move at all. Yi Yangzi's powerful finger energy was already very close to Jianshin. At the moment of life and death, Jianshin roared towards the sky. Boundless chaotic force shook crazily within his body. Finally, it poured out like a flood from his body. It formed a raging black flame that wrapped around his body. Suddenly, a destructive aura of energy raged between heaven and earth. It stirred up the wind and clouds. The terrifying energy shockwaves spread out, causing the surrounding space to tremble violently. Kacha! Kacha! Jianshin resisted with all his strength. The space solidified by Yi Yangzi was instantly shattered, causing the surrounding space to tremble incessantly. However, since Yi Yangzi dared to attack Jianshin, he had already calculated the time extremely accurately. He did not give Jianchen any time to take out the divine palace to protect himself. When Jianchen regained his freedom, Yi Yangzi's finger energy was less than 3 inches away from Jianchen's forehead. It was still shooting towards Jianchen's soul at an unparalleled speed. Jianchen's pupils suddenly shrank. While he was rushing, he missed his parents. In addition, he did not expect that the guardian family of Yi Yuan School would take advantage of his unpreparedness to launch a sneak attack. Therefore, he was not fully prepared, causing him to be in danger. Although he had the divine palace to protect himself, he did not have the time to take out the divine palace at this moment. At this moment, a golden light flashed out from Jianchen's forehead. It instantly turned into a golden pagoda the size of a fist and blocked in front of Jianchen's forehead. Boom! Yi Yangzi's finger energy fiercely collided with the golden pagoda. Immediately there was a loud boom. The sound shook the sky and reverberated between heaven and earth. The violent energy shock waves formed a terrifying storm that swept out in all directions, causing the surrounding space to tremble incessantly. Under the impact of the violent energy shock waves, Jianchen's clothes were instantly torn to shreds, revealing the golden silk armor underneath. His body was constantly pushed back by the violent energy shock waves. Jianchen was blown far away like a cannonball. Chaotic force circulated within him, pushing its power to the limit to resist the shock waves. The golden pagoda remained in front of him the entire time, blocking Yi Yangzi's attacks at any time. Yi Yangzi's gaze remained on Jianchen the entire time. When he saw Jianchen use the golden pagoda to block his attack, his face could not help but sink. He growled, "Why didn't I think that you would have a saint artifact from the Radiant Saint Master Union aside from the Divine Palace? What a miscalculation!" With that, Yi Yangzi took a step forward. He passed through the region of energy and instantly appeared behind Jianchen. He extended a finger toward the back of Jianchen's head again. Jianchen had already enveloped the entire region with the senses of his soul, so he knew Yi Yangzi's movements. Under his control, the golden pagoda immediately moved to the back of his head. At the same time, he took out the 8 Wastelands Divine Hall with his right hand. "Jianchen, you're dead for sure now." Suddenly, Yi Yangzi's sneer rang out in Jianchen's head. Yi Yangzi had actually appeared to his left silently. He extended a finger toward Jianchen's head with lightning-like speed, while the other Yi Yangzi behind him remained. Jianchen's face changed. He could sense the existence of the other Yi Yangzi behind him, but the other Yi Yangzi who had suddenly appeared to his left was still real. He was extremely shocked by the sudden appearance of 2 Yi Yangzi. Jianchen had yet to unfurl his divine hull. He used the saint artifact to block the attack of the first Yi Yangzi, but he was powerless against the attack of the second Yi Yangzi. In that critical moment, he could only turn his head as hard as he could to avoid the second Yi Yangzi's fatal finger. However, even though Jianchen had begun to dodge as hard as he could, he was still unable to completely avoid the attack. However, due to the movement of his head, the finger that Yi Yangzi had shot toward his soul deviated slightly as well. In the end, it pierced through Jianchen's face and easily pierced through his chaotic body. Jianchen's heart immediately chilled when he sensed Yi Yangzi's powerful finger pierce through his head. Yi Yangzi's finger possessed great power. If the power erupted, it would be enough to blast his head to pieces. At that time, he would suffer unimaginable injuries, even if he survived. Without any hesitation, Jianchen moved his head almost instinctively, allowing Yi Yangzi's finger to break free. Afterwards, he retreated with lightning speed. At the same time, the divine hull of the 8 Wastelands flew out and rapidly expanded above his head. The second Yi Yangzi slowly vanished. Yi Yangzi looked at the wound on Jianchen's face in pity and thought, "It's a pity that I don't have great control over this clone, or I would have been able to take your life in a single strike." Jianchen ignored the wound on his face and quickly rose into the air. He wanted to enter the divine hull of the 8 Wastelands. Yangzi's eyes immediately turned cold when he sensed Jinshin's intentions. He called out, "Don't even think about entering the Divine Hall." Distance was nothing to Yangzi. He took a step through the air and instantly crossed several dozen meters, arriving between Jinshin and the Divine Hall. He directly sent a palm strike down at Jinshin in an attempt to stop Jinshin from entering the Divine Hall. Jinshin knew Yangzi's strength, so he did not want to take the attack head-on. He immediately placed the Saint artifact in front of him, blocking the palm strike. Although Jinshin could also hide in the Saint artifact, he would lose the ability to escape once he did so. This was because Yangzi could take the Saint artifact into a Protector clan and use the Protector clan's Emperor armament to deal with the Saint artifact. As a result, the Saint artifact could only be used as protection in Jinshin's hands. It could not be used as a place of refuge like the Divine Hall of the Eight Wastelands. Yangzi's palm strike was so powerful that it knocked Jinshin far away along with his artifact. It pushed Jinshin even further away from the Divine Hall of the Eight Wastelands. Jinshin became extremely stern as he watched the Divine Hall of the Eight Wastelands grow further and further away from him. With a thought, he controlled the Divine Hall of the Eight Wastelands to quickly fly toward him. "Jinshin, I'd like to see how you enter the Divine Hall of the Eight Wastelands with me here," Yangzi sneered. He took a step and arrived before Jinshin once again. He struck out with his palm again, knocking back Jinshin with his artifact with supreme force. He maintained a certain distance from the Divine Hall of the Eight Wastelands the entire time. At this moment, an extremely powerful killing intent that caused Yangzi's expression to change appeared in the surroundings. Soon after, a loud voice boomed out, "I never thought that a great elder of a Protector clan would actually ambush a junior. Is this how Protector clans do things? I've witnessed it today." With that, the space 100 meters away began to violently pulse. A space gate withstood the chaotic streams of energy with great difficulty as it struggled to hold on. Soon after, two tremendous presences appeared from the space gate. Yangzi's expression changed drastically. He was extremely familiar with the two presences. They were Ruijin and Blackfish, who had fought against the Path Lord of Carnal Desires and Lankiros, who had rendered the two Holy Emperor powerless. Although Yangzi was conceited, he definitely did not think that he was a match for the two of them. Without any hesitation, he directly slammed his palm towards the space door that was not yet fully formed, shattering it. "Do you think you can stop me from coming just because you've shattered the space gate?" A furious roar boomed out from the distance. The voice constantly grew louder and louder. By the time it reached where Jinshin was, it had already turned into a thunderous boom. Ruijin was currently using a secret technique, flying over from Lore City at an extremely fast speed. From afar, a dazzling, golden streak of light could be seen rapidly approaching, radiating with a tremendous presence along the way. Yangzi became extremely stern as he watched Ruijin rapidly approach him. His eyes were filled with deep fear. He knew that if he did not leave now, he would no longer have the chance to. Yangzi coldly stared at Jinshin. He gritted his teeth and said, "Jinshin, I'll let you go for now and let you live for a few more days." With that, Yangzi directly ripped open a space gate in an attempt to flee. Jinshin pulled out the Emperor armament from his space ring and sent a powerful sword chi toward the space gate. He wanted to stop Yangzi from fleeing. Yangzi sneered in disdain. He gently extended his finger, and a strand of energy shot out, shattering Jinshin's sword chi. He coldly said, "You think you can stop me from leaving? You're overestimating yourself." With that, Yangzi directly vanished into the space gate. The golden divine dragon, Ruijin, hurried over very quickly. A sliver of anger immediately appeared on his face when he saw the bloodied Jinshin. He asked in concern, "Brother Jinshin, are you all right?" Jinshin's eyes were cold. He put away the Eight Wastelands Divine Hall and Saint Artifact and gently shook his head. "I'm fine." Thank you for coming in time, Senior Ruijin, for scaring Yangzi away. Otherwise, I probably would have died today. Ruijin looked in the direction that Yangzi had disappeared in and said with a heavy voice, "The Protector clan has gone too far. They actually ambushed you with people of such status. Brother Jianchen, let's go. Blackfish, and I will take you to the Protector clan and get justice for you." Ruijin said with righteous indignation. He was extremely furious inside as well, as if he would not stop until he destroyed the Protector clan. Senior Ruijin, thank you very much for your assistance. However, I want to personally take revenge in the future, Jianchen said with a sunken face. Blood continued to flow from his face. Afterward, Blackfish arrived from behind as well. He also furiously stood beside Ruijin. He angrily said that he wanted to take revenge for Jianchen and destroy the Yuan sect, but Jianchen tactfully turned him down. This was because Jianchen had already learned just how powerful the Protector clan was from Changyang Zhuyanshao. Their emperor armaments possessed the might of the Holy Emperor. Although Ruijin and Blackfish were powerful and possessed origin energy armor, Jianchen still did not want them to take this risk for him. Moreover, Ruijin and Blackfish had helped him enough along the way. He did not want to owe them any favors. Chapter 987. Brother Jianchen, since you want to take revenge personally in the future, we can talk about today's grievances in the future. However, if you need our help when the time comes, feel free to ask. We will definitely assist you with everything we have, Blackfish said seriously. He did not seem like he was joking at all. Thank you for your concern, seniors. Once I have enough strength to deal with the Yuan sect in the future, I might need your assistance. Jianchen clasped his hands in thanks. He was filled with gratitude towards Ruijin and Blackfish. Jianchen had already completely credited the White Tiger with how Ruijin and Blackfish treated him. Afterwards, Ruijin and Blackfish were afraid that the people from the Yuan sect and other Protector clans would continue to attack Jianchen for the Winged Tiger, so they followed Jianchen to Mercenary City. After using a strand of origin energy from Radiant Saint Force to heal his wounds, Jianchen left with Ruijin and Blackfish. Although Mercenary City was extremely far away, Jianchen followed the two true Holy Emperor experts. Distance no longer held any significance to them. They directly passed through the space gate created by Blackfish and arrived outside Mercenary City. Jianchen saw the huge barrier that enveloped the entire city from afar. When he saw the familiar barrier, Jianchen could not help but think of Xiaoling's innocent smile. Jianchen had already learned about how terrifying and powerful Xiaoling was from the sea goddess. Although Xiaoling only seemed to be around 11 or 12 years old, she possessed strength that was completely disproportionate to her age. Her actual age had reached an astounding level. She had followed them all the way to ancient times. It had already been several 100,000 years, or even over 1,000,000 years, since Ruijin and Blackfish were protecting him. Jianchen did not have to worry about his safety. He released the White Tiger from the artifact space before making his way to Mercenary City with Ruijin and Blackfish. However, the White Tiger did not know how to conceal its presence, like Ruijin and Blackfish. As soon as it appeared, it naturally radiated with the bloodline pressure of a winged tiger, causing the magical beast mounts of the mercenaries in the surroundings to tremble and collapse on the ground. They refused to stand up no matter what the mercenaries did, which confused the mercenaries. Even after so many years, Mercenary City still remained the same. It was the same as when Jianchen had first come here. Groups of mercenaries in various attires could be seen entering and leaving Mercenary City on magical beast mounts. The entire city was bustling. The White Tiger had shrunk to the size of a cat. It jumped around on Jianchen's shoulders as it blinked its bright eyes. It constantly looked around as if it was very curious about everything. Big Brother, it's Big Brother's presence. Xiaoling can smell Big Brother's presence and Master's presence. Big Brother has finally come to see Xiaoling. Xiaoling, Mrs. Big Brother, so much. Xiao Ling's voice rang out when Jianchen entered the barrier around Mercenary City, clearly reaching Jianchen's ears. Afterwards, Xiao Ling's faint figure gradually appeared before Jianchen. Her cute face was filled with joy. Jianchen could not help but smile from the bottom of his heart when he saw Xiao Ling's innocent face. He said, "Xiao Ling, Big Brother has come to see you." Xiao Ling wrinkled her nose and showed some displeasure. She pouted, "Bad Big Brother." Big Brother didn't keep his promise and made Xiao Ling wait for so long before coming to see Xiao Ling. Humph. Xiao Ling is very unhappy. Xiao Ling is angry. Jianchen bitterly smiled. "Xiao Ling, it's not that I don't want to see you, but in the past few years I've been forced by the 10 protector clans and the people of the Beast God continent to hide overseas. I've only returned recently. Xiao Ling, if I didn't do that, not only would I not be able to see you today, I wouldn't be able to see you in the future either." Jianchen, who was completely focused on Xiao Ling, failed to notice that Ruijin and Blackfish's gazes had become strange. Only Jianchen could see Xiao Ling. Ruijin and Blackfish were both great perfection experts of the Holy Emperor, but they were still unable to sense Xiao Ling's existence. Right now, in their eyes, Jianchen was talking to the air and giggling to the air. He stood there in a daze and muttered to himself like a crazy person. Aside from Ruijin and Blackfish, there were also a few mercenaries and merchants who constantly passed by them who had noticed Jianchen's strange behavior. They all looked at Jianchen strangely. Xiao Ling lowered her head in thought after hearing Jianchen's explanation. Her furrowed brows finally relaxed, and she smiled sweetly once again. She said seriously, "All right, since it's like that, Xiao Ling will forgive you. However, you have to visit Xiao Ling often in the future. If those bad people still try to bully you, you can come to Xiao Ling. Xiao Ling will protect you well and chase away those bad people for you." Jianchen nodded fiercely. "Yes, I'll have to trouble Xiao Ling when I meet bad people that I can't beat in the future. Don't worry, Big Brother. With Xiao Ling here, no one will be able to bully you." Xiao Ling smiled happily. Blackfish couldn't help but touch Jianchen's body when he saw Jianchen talking to himself. He looked at Jianchen with bewildered eyes and said, "Little brother Jianchen, are you all right? Why are you standing here talking to yourself? Who are you talking to?" Blackfish's words finally woke Jianchen up. He suddenly remembered that other than himself, no one else could see Xiao Ling unless Xiao Ling was willing to let them see her. Jianchen laughed dryly and said to Blackfish, "Senior Blackfish, I'm talking to a friend. My friend's identity is rather special. Unless she's willing, you won't be able to see her. Is that so? Even with our strength, we still can't see your friend's figure?" Blackfish's face was full of disbelief. He couldn't believe that there was someone so close to him in this world that he wasn't afraid of. This person's strength was too terrifying. It wasn't just Blackfish. Even Ruijin found this hard to believe. However, Jianchen didn't seem to be joking. He immediately muttered to himself, "Could there really be such a terrifying existence in this world?" Ignoring Ruijin and Blackfish's shock, Jianchen said to Xiao Ling, "Xiao Ling, it's not convenient to talk here. Let's talk somewhere else first." "Yes, okay." Xiao Ling nodded obediently and was about to disappear. However, at this moment, her eyes suddenly lit up. She arrived beside Jianchen in a flash and sniffed Jianchen with her pink nose. She immediately cried out, "Big Brother, Master scent on you is getting thicker and thicker. Have you seen Master? Why does even this have Master scent? And it's even thicker than yours." Xiao Ling was stunned. She pointed at the white tiger on Jianchen's shoulder and cried out in surprise. However, she quickly understood and became even more excited. She kept calling out, "Big Brother, you must have seen Master. You must have seen Master, right? Hurry up and tell Xiao Ling. Xiao Ling really misses Master. Where's Master?" Towards the end, Xiao Ling's voice became slightly choked up. A thin layer of mist had already covered her eyes. "Xiao Ling, I have indeed seen your master. but I only saw a sliver of his soul that he left behind back then. Your master told me to tell you that once you complete your mission, you can regain your freedom. You have to practice the cultivation method that your master taught you back then, Jianqin said. Then he glanced at the white tiger on his shoulder. He was filled with doubt. When he had first seen Mo Tianyin, it had only been a sliver of Mo Tianyin's soul. Jianqin had also learned from Shaoling that Mo Tianyin's presence on him would fade with the passage of time. However, so much time had passed since then, so how was the presence still present? Moreover, Mo Tianyin's presence was even denser on the white tiger. This was because the white tiger had not left the artifact space for very long. It was nowhere near as long as the time he and the heavenly enchantress had spent with Mo Tianyin. Even if it possessed Mo Tianyin's presence, it was impossible for it to be denser than his. Is it because the white tiger has been in the artifact space all these years? That's why Mo Tianyin's aura is dispersing so slowly. On the other hand, I've been fighting in the outside world all these years. I've come into contact with many people and things, so Mo Tianyin's aura is dispersing faster than the white tiger, Jianqin thought to himself. Woo-woo, big brother, just where's master? Shaoling asked in a sobbing voice. Jianqin shook his head. Shaoling, I don't know where your master is right now. But if he's still alive, you need to cultivate properly. Once you complete your mission and regain your freedom, you can go find your master. The flames of hope immediately lit up in Shaoling's eyes when she heard that. She nodded firmly and said, You're right. Shaoling needs to cultivate diligently in the future. Once Shaoling completes my mission, I'll definitely go find master. Suddenly, Shaoling raised her head to the sky and frowned slightly. She said, Why have you come again? You're even standing above Mercenary City this time. This is disrespect to my master. Move immediately or Shaoling will definitely teach you a vicious lesson, one that will be even more severe than last time. As she said that, the barrier of Mercenary City suddenly shone with a dazzling light. A pillar of light that was 0.5 meter in diameter shot into the sky like a bolt of lightning. Boom! With a great rumble, violent ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings, directly shattering the space there and causing the entire sky to darken. A middle-aged man appeared in the empty space. He constantly shook as he hovered in the air. His clothes were disheveled, and his hair was disheveled. He was in a horrible shape. The Holy Emperor of the Humans! The Path Lord of Carnal Desires. The moment they saw the middle-aged man, Jianqin and Ruijin's expressions changed. Chapter 988. The Path Lord of Carnal Desires vanished into outer space, but Jianqin was unable to calm down even after a very long time. His heart was heavy, and even his face had sunk. He never thought that the Path Lord of Carnal Desires would actually follow him to Mercenary City in secret. If it weren't for Shaoling, he probably wouldn't have discovered that the Path Lord of Carnal Desires had been watching him from the shadows. Looks like the Holy Emperor still hasn't given up on the winged tiger, Ruijin said with a deep voice. When he saw Jianqin's stern expression, he immediately understood what Jianqin was worried about. As a result, he comforted him. Brother Jianqin, don't worry. As long as Blackfish and I are here, the Holy Emperor won't be able to harm you. Brother Jianqin, if the Holy Emperor dares to move against you, Ruijin and I will stop him for you. Don't worry, Blackfish comforted him as well. Jianqin's heart warmed when he heard that. He said some polite words of gratitude. Afterwards, Ruijin and Blackfish looked at the huge barrier in the sky. Their faces were filled with sternness and surprise. They had seen everything that had just happened. They struggled to believe that the barrier around Mercenary City was so powerful that it could scare away the Holy Emperor in a single strike. After repelling the Path Lord, Shaoling looked at Ruijin and Blackfish again. After a moment of thought, she said, The two of you are magical beasts. Originally, Master said that no magical beasts above Class 7 were allowed to enter, but since you're Big Brother's friends, Xiaoling won't chase you away. However, you're not allowed to cause trouble here." Although Xiaoling was invisible to Ruijin and Blackfish, her words were clearly heard by Ruijin and Blackfish. Their faces immediately changed, and they looked around in an attempt to find the speaker. However, they found nothing even after searching for quite some time. "Who is it? Who's speaking?" Blackfish growled. His face was rather ugly. Even with his strength, he was unable to find the speaker. That person's strength was just too terrifying. Ruijin's face was stern as well. He was filled with vigilance towards this person who was hiding somewhere. Jianchen hurriedly explained when he saw how nervous Ruijin and Blackfish were. The barrier spirit of Mercenary City was no longer a secret to a few hermit clans. Basically, all the clans on the Tianyuan continent with some age knew about it. Only Ruijin and Blackfish, who had just emerged from the artifact space, did not know about the Tianyuan continent. Jianchen telling the two of them about Xiao Ling's existence did not affect them at all. Although Ruijin could obtain some information from the memories passed down through the generations of divine gold dragons. Mercenary City had yet to be constructed when Ruijin's ancestor had been sucked into the artifact space. The barrier spirit had yet to form, so he knew nothing about it. When Ruijin and Blackfish learned about the barrier spirit of Mercenary City, they were astounded. They sighed, "I never thought that the barrier spirit would have such a long lifespan. No wonder she could repel the path, Lord of carnal desires, so easily." Jianchen did not reveal the fact that Xiaoling was a spirit of the earth. He did not want too many people to know about this. At this moment, over a dozen tremendous presences appeared from the center of Mercenary City. The Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Tianjian, led a group of experts over from afar. Xiaoling had used the power of the barrier to repel the path, Lord of carnal desires. The disturbance was so great that it had shaken up the entire city, which was why all the upper echelon of Mercenary City had been drawn over. "Jianchen, you've actually come." Tianjian discovered Jianchen from afar and immediately smiled faintly. At the same time, he quickly glanced past Ruijin and Blackfish, who stood beside Jianchen. A strange light flashed through his eyes. Tianjian knew that Jianchen had an extraordinary relationship with the barrier spirit. He asked Jianchen, "Brother Jianchen, may I ask what happened earlier? Why did the barrier suddenly erupt?" "It's the path, Lord of carnal desires." Jianchen explained what had happened earlier. Tianjian's face immediately sank when he heard that. "I never thought that the path, Lord of carnal desires, would be bold enough to come to my Mercenary City. Looks like he hasn't suffered enough last time. However, my Mercenary City has a protective barrier, so he won't be able to enter no matter what." After exchanging some pleasantries with Tianjian, Jianchen was taken to a space created by a technique. It was the space where the floating divine hall was located. Ruijin and Blackfish were left behind in Mercenary City by Tianjian. They did not follow him in. Jianchen felt completely different from before when he entered the somewhat familiar space again. As his strength increased, Jianchen could sense just how wondrous the space created with the help of a technique was. Jianchen hovered in the air as he stared at the divine hall he had seen many times before. In the past, he had no idea just how powerful the divine hall was, but now he could tell with a single glance that it was also a divine hall created by a holy emperor. At the same time, he could vaguely sense a great pressure from the divine hall. It felt like a mountain suffocating him. Seeing how Jianchen was staring at the divine hall, Tianjian explained with a smile, "This divine hall is one of the most precious items in our Mercenary City. It was personally created by the city, Lord using his supreme abilities. Its defense is extremely great, where even a holy emperor cannot damage it at all. In the past, our Mercenary City had some conflicts with the 10 protector clans. The 10 protector clans sent all their experts, including over 20 holy emperor experts. Only the Grand Elder of our Mercenary City, who had reached the level of a holy emperor, took action. He used this divine hall to suppress the 10 protector clans and heavily injure over a dozen of their holy emperor experts. This divine hall is different from the other divine halls. Other divine halls created by saint emperors have no other uses other than toughness. However, this divine hall was personally created by the city lord. Other than its great defense, it also possesses great offensive power, enough to deal with saint emperors, Jianqin said with a sigh. Tianjin's face darkened when he reached there. He gently sighed. Although this divine hall is very powerful, the requirements to control it are extremely high as well. It requires the strength of a holy emperor, but our mercenary city no longer has a holy emperor expert. Otherwise, just controlling this divine hall would be enough to stop the invasion of the beast god continent. Now, this divine hall has been abandoned for several thousand years. Although I've tried to control it during that time, I've failed in the end. The only time I succeeded was to fuse my soul with it, but it separated very quickly. Jianqin felt pity when he heard that. Guarding such a powerful divine hall without being able to use it was basically a form of torture. Tianjin exhaled deeply and dismissed his feelings. Mingdong and your friend called Taita are both cultivating in the divine hall. Jianqin, come in with me. Jianqin directly entered the divine hall with Tianjin. They passed through many halls before arriving in a large hall in the end. As soon as they entered the hall, Jianqin saw Mingdong and Taita cultivating on the ground. He struggled to remain calm and became rather excited. After so many years, both Mingdong and Taita's strength had increased by a lot. From their presences, Jianqin could tell that Mingdong had reached the peak of Heaven Saint Master with a single glance, while Taita was even stronger. He had reached the third heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. However, Jianqin felt puzzled when he saw Taita's burly body, golden skin, and the imprint of a huge axe that had suddenly appeared on his forehead. Taita had changed just too much in the past few years, to the point where he had almost failed to recognize him. Mingdong's talent is extremely good. He's been cultivating extremely hard in the past few years, which is why he's reached the peak of Heaven Saint Master at such a young age. However, the barrier from Heaven Saint Master to Saint Ruler isn't so easy to overcome. He's already been stuck at this level of cultivation for several years without breaking through. Although Tianjin's voice was calm, it was filled with joy. Although Mingdong had yet to reach Saint Ruler, his current accomplishments could already be described as unprecedented. Tianjin then looked at Taita and his expression immediately became mixed. He said, "However, Jianqin, your friend's identity is not so simple. If I hadn't sent him to Mercenary City in time, your friend probably would have been captured by the Protector clan." Jianqin's expression changed slightly when he heard that. He could not help but think about Taita's golden blood. "Senior Tianjin, may I ask who Taita is and what's going on between him and the Protector clan?" Tianjin stared at Taita deeply and slowly said, "He's the war god of the 100 races, an existence on the same level as Ruijin, who surpassed the Holy Emperor in ancient times." "What? Taita, he's actually—" Jianqin felt like he had been struck by a bolt from the blue. He was immediately stunned. At that moment, deep shock and disbelief filled Jianqin's entire soul. Jianqin found it hard to believe that the country boy who had studied with him in Kargath Academy in the kingdom of Jessin actually had such a terrifying identity. He was actually the war god of the 100 races. Tianjin sighed at the sky and said, "It does sound like an extremely absurd matter. It's very difficult to believe, but that's the truth. Taita really is the war god of the 100 races. After the 100 races were chased out of the beast god continent by the winged tiger, they once invaded our Tianyuan continent under the lead of Ruijin, forcing us to retreat time and time again. Many seniors of the Protector clans died at the hands of the war god, Ruijin. If it weren't for the fact that the greatest human expert had appeared out of nowhere and repelled the 100 races experts, all by himself, the Tianyuan continent probably wouldn't have belonged to us humans long ago. As a result, the protector clans are extremely jealous of the war god of the 100 races. If they learn that Taita is the war god of the 100 races, Taita definitely won't be able to escape death. On one hand, he would be avenging the seniors who died at the hands of Ruijin, and on the other, he would be able to eliminate a supreme expert of the 100 races and prevent any future problems. Now that our Tianyuan continent no longer has an expert like Mo Tianyin, if the war god of the 100 races matures and continues to lead the 100 races to invade our Tianyuan continent, what power will our Tianyuan continent have left to stop him? Chapter 989. Jianchen fell silent when he heard Tian Jian's words. Now that he had confirmed Taita's identity, he was very unsettled. At the same time, he understood extremely well that, although Taita was innocent, he was still the war god of the 100 races after all. The war god of the previous generation and the 100 races were all enemies of the Tianyuan continent, so the 10 protector clans would never let him go because of what had happened back then. Jianchen felt some lingering fear after learning about Taita's identity. If Tianjin had not arrived in time and brought Taita to Mercenary City before the 10 protector clans arrived, the outcome would have been unthinkable. Jianchen might have lost a friend forever. Although Taita's true identity was not a human, Jianchen did not care about that at all. In his heart, no matter who Taita's true identity was or what he had become, he would still be his best friend. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Jianchen's head. He thought about the droplet of golden blood he had come across on Dragon Island. He thought that droplet of blood was left behind by the war god Arages. It possesses great power. Taita is also the war god of the 100 races, so I wonder if he can absorb the blood. If he can, his strength will definitely increase drastically. Looks like I'll have to take Taita to Dragon Island with me when the time comes, Jianchen thought. At this moment, the presence of Mingdong and Taita pulsed as they both roused at the same time. As soon as they opened their eyes, they discovered Jianchen standing with Tianjin. They were stunned at first, but they soon returned to their senses and became excited. Jianchen, you've actually returned. Mingdong immediately cried out. He shot forward and hugged Jianchen tightly. He was extremely excited. Fantastic. Jianchen, you've finally returned. Taita stood up as well. He looked at Jianchen, who was only as tall as his chest, and his face was filled with excitement. Jianchen and Mingdong separated after hugging each other for a while. Afterwards, they arrived before Taita. Looking at Taita's 3-meter-tall figure, Jianchen viciously hammered Taita's burly body and said, "Taita, I never thought that you would grow so big in just a few years." Taita smiled in a simple manner. He scratched his head and said with a muffled voice, "I don't know what's going on either. My body just keeps growing bigger and bigger." Jianchen and Taita chatted for a while. Mingdong seemed to suddenly think of something, and his face became gloomy. He looked at Jianchen apologetically and said, "Jianchen, I'm sorry. We were useless. We couldn't protect your flame city, allowing it to be taken over by the extinguishing alliance led by the king." Taita also became gloomy when he heard Mingdong's words. He looked at Jianchen apologetically and guiltily. Taita also felt extremely guilty about what happened in Flame City, even though he was not responsible for it. Jianchen laughed involuntarily when he heard that. He said, "I already know about that, but don't worry. As long as it's something that belongs to me, Jianchen, no one can take it away from me. I've already taken back Flame City that the Extinguishing Alliance took." Mingdong and Taita immediately became overjoyed. However, Mingdong seemed to realize something soon after. A sliver of worry appeared on his face. But Jianchen, the Tianyuan continent, won't let the Tianyuan continent take back Flame City. The 10 protector clans won't let us take over Flame City. If the 10 protector clans interfere again, we won't be able to protect Flame City with our strength. Even Uncle Tian won't be able to do anything. The 10 protector clans, Jianchen murmured. He could not help but sneer. If the 10 protector clans dare to interfere, I, Genshin, will definitely make them suffer. Although the protector clans had emperor armaments that could destroy his divine hall of the 8 wastelands, their emperor armaments were just too powerful. They could not be used unless it was absolutely necessary. Unless he forced the protector clans to do what he did to the Yuan sect. Genshin believed that the protector clans would not use their emperor armaments so easily, and even if they did use their emperor armaments against him, he had the support of the protector clan of Chongyang Prefecture. At the very least, Genshin had the power to contend against them. Coupled with Tianjin from Mercenary City, it would not be easy for the protector clans to use their emperor armaments if they wanted to. Lastly, he had Ruijin and Blackfish behind him, 2 supreme experts who could fend off the Holy Emperor. Even if the protector clans wanted to use their emperor armaments against him at the risk of offending Mercenary City, he would have nothing to fear. Although their emperor armaments possessed the might of the Holy Emperor, Tianjin and Blackfish were protected by Origin energy armor. Even the Holy Emperor would struggle to harm them. The emperor armaments of the protector clans were unable to harm the 2 of them at all. Genshin's arrogant words immediately surprised Mingdong and Taita. They both stared at Genshin with widened eyes. Heavens, Genshin, you're not even afraid of the protector clans. Just what level of strength have you reached? Are you already able to fend off the protector clans? Mingdong cried out, If I use my emperor armament, I can fend off the Holy Emperor, who's at the 7th heavenly layer. Genshin smiled faintly. There were very few things he could hide from Mingdong and Taita. However, Mingdong and Taita immediately felt their hearts churn when they heard what Genshin had said. Disbelief filled their faces. Holy Emperor, who's at the 7th heavenly layer? Heavens, Genshin, why? You've already become so powerful, Mingdong stuttered as he stared at Genshin. Mingdong stammered as he stared at Genshin in shock. At that moment, his shock had reached its limit. Taita was stunned for quite a while as well. Only then did he gradually return to his senses. He sighed emotionally. Genshin, I thought I'd already improved quickly enough and could surpass you, but I never thought that after a few years, you'd still be stronger than me. The gap between us has been pulled further and further apart. It looks like I won't be able to surpass you for the rest of my life. Genshin smiled when he heard Taita's words. Taita, you need to have confidence in yourself. You need to believe in yourself. You will definitely surpass me in the future and become an expert who can surpass the Holy Emperor on the Tian Yuan continent. Surpass the Holy Emperor? Can I really do that? Taita's eyes immediately lit up when he heard the word surpass the Holy Emperor. Genshin chatted with Taita and Mingdong for a while before looking at Tianjin. His expression changed rapidly, becoming filled with some sorrow. Senior Tianjin, I want to see the remains of my parents, Mingdong said softly. As soon as he thought about his father and mother's situation, his joy from meeting Mingdong and Genshin immediately vanished. Tianjin nodded silently and said, Come with me. With that, he turned around and made his way out of the hall. Genshin immediately followed Tianjin to where his parents' remains were. Mingdong and Taita dismissed their emotions as well. They followed behind Genshin with heavy hearts. The 2 of them felt extremely sad about what had happened to Genshin's parents. Genshin followed Tianjin to a secret room in the Divine Hall. The entire room was filled with icy cold air, causing a layer of white frost to form on the walls. White mist from the cold air permeated the air as well. As soon as he set foot in the room, Genshin's gaze locked onto the huge ice coffin in the center of the room. Through the transparent ice coffin, he could clearly see his parents lying inside. In order to preserve your parents' remains better, I specially made a trip to the North Pole and brought back some extreme ice. It can ensure that your parents' remains will remain intact for 1,000 years. Genshin, you've been separated from your parents for quite a few years now. You should have a proper reunion. Tianjian spoke with mixed feelings before leaving with Ming Dong and Tai Ta, leaving Jianchen alone in the room, filled with coldness. Jianchen slowly made his way over to the ice coffin. He stood there quietly as he stared at his parents. Unknowingly, 2 streams of clear tears had already rolled down his cheeks. Who said that men did not cry when they bled? That was only because they had not been deeply hurt. Jianchen was an indomitable and vicious man on the outside. In the past, no matter how much blood he had bled or how much pain and torture he had endured, he had never shed a single tear. He gave others the impression that he had a heart of stone. However, there was still a weak side to him. That was his kinship and family. Jianchen stared at his parents in a daze. In a daze, his memories returned to the past. He thought about his mother's concern for him when he was young, as well as her meticulous care and love. He also thought about her beautiful, benevolent face. Father, Mother, I've returned. I've returned to see you. I'm now a Class 7, Radiant Saint Master. I'll be able to wake you up from your slumber very soon, Jianchen murmured. With a thought, a golden streak of light immediately shot out from between his eyebrows, turning into a golden tower before him. Afterward, Jianchen entered the saint artifact as well. Jianchen currently sat in a rather gloomy room within the huge hall at the center of the artifact space. The white-robed, middle-aged man from the artifact spirit stood to one side politely. Artifact spirit, teach me the 3 soul-controlling techniques immediately, Jianchen growled. Only by learning the 3 soul-controlling techniques could he bring someone back from the dead. Chapter 990. The 3 soul-controlling techniques were a wondrous technique specially made for Class 7, Radiant Saint Masters. They could bring people back to life. Once someone died, as long as their soul was not completely destroyed and their body remained intact, they could be revived after consuming a strand of Radiant Saint Force origin energy. There would not be any side effects at all. They would retain all their memories from when they were alive. The 3 soul control arts were divided into 3 types: Gather Soul, Condense Soul, and Fuse Soul. Among them, Gather Soul was used to condense the souls of resurrected people, gather the scattered souls together, and use the second art, Condense Soul, to condense the scattered souls into a complete soul. As for the third art, Soul Fusion, it perfectly fused the complete soul with the physical body, allowing the dead to come back to life. The 3 soul-controlling techniques were a wondrous technique specially used for reviving the dead. Aside from that, they had no other uses. Only Class 7, Radiant Saint Masters and above could practice them. Although the artifact spirit possessed the 3 soul-controlling techniques and could be regarded as a powerful Radiant Saint Master, he was not human after all. He was unable to practice the 3 soul-controlling techniques, so the artifact spirit did not possess the ability to revive the dead. Jianchen had obtained the complete cultivation method of the 3 soul-controlling techniques from the artifact spirit. Ever since then, he had remained in the artifact space to practice the 3 soul-controlling techniques. Time passed by rapidly. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had already passed since Jianchen had arrived in Mercenary City. During those 3 months, he remained in the artifact space, practicing the 3 soul-controlling techniques. He did not take a single step out at all. Tianjian and Ming Dong did not disturb Jianchen. However, Tianjian had already left long ago. Only Ming Dong and Tai Ta remained outside the cold room, waiting quietly. Jianchen, who had not moved for 3 months, finally moved. He slowly opened his eyes, and immediately 2 visible streaks of light flashed through his eyes. His eyes were even brighter than 3 months ago. After 3 months of comprehension, Jianchen had finally learned the 3 soul-controlling techniques. Although the 3 soul-controlling techniques could not increase his strength, Jianchen's soul had clearly grown after grasping them. The range of the senses of his soul had expanded as well. Artifact spirit, send me out of the artifact space, Jianchen said impatiently. After grasping the 3 soul-controlling techniques, he wanted to revive his parents as soon as possible. With a flash of white light, Jianqin vanished from the artifact space. When he reappeared, he had returned to the room, filled with coldness. Jianqin stared at his parents in the ice coffin affectionately. He was unable to hide his excitement and some uneasiness inside. He was excited because his parents were about to be revived and reappear in the world. He was uneasy because he was worried that something would happen during the revival process, destroying his hopes of reviving his parents. After all, he had never experienced anything like this before. "Father, Mother, you've slept for so long already. It's time to wake up." "Don't worry, I'll be able to wake you up immediately." Jianqin gently stroked the ice coffin as he murmured. With a thought, he made the ice coffin hover before carrying it on his shoulder and walking out of the room. "Jianqin, what are you doing?" As soon as Jianqin walked out of the room, he was discovered by Mingdong and Taita. They immediately cried out when they saw Jianqin walk out with the ice coffin. "I want to revive my parents so that they can see the light of day again," Jianqin said sternly as he strode out of the room with the ice coffin. Mingdong and Taita became stunned. They had been stunned by Jianqin's words. At this moment, the white-robed Tianjin walked in from outside. Tianjin's eyes shone brightly as he stared at Jianqin. He asked, "Jianqin, have you already become a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master?" Jianqin nodded. "Senior Tianjin, I need to go outside to revive my parents. Only outside can I use the 3 soul-controlling techniques to condense their souls." Tianjin nodded sternly and said, "Come with me." Afterward, Jianqin left the space with Tianjin with the ice coffin. Mingdong and Taita followed behind him. Ruijin and Blackfish immediately flew over from afar when Jianqin reappeared in Mercenary City. However, when they saw the ice coffin on Jianqin's shoulder, they became stunned and became doubtful. Just when they wanted to ask about it, they noticed Jianqin's expression, so they could only swallow their words. Mercenary City was blocked by a barrier. Jianqin was worried that the resurrection ceremony would be affected by the barrier, so he carried the ice coffin out of the city. Ruijin, Blackfish, Mingdong, and Taita followed closely behind him. Accompanying them was the Grand Elder, Tianjin. Jianqin immediately attracted everyone's attention as he carried the icy-cold ice coffin through the streets of Mercenary City. They all pointed at Jianqin and discussed him. After all these years, no one had ever dared to strut through the streets of Mercenary City while carrying a coffin. This was because Mercenary City was a sacred place that could not be violated in the eyes of all mercenaries. Many mercenaries found Jianqin's actions unbearable. Immediately, a few mercenaries who believed themselves to be powerful wanted to step forward and denounce Jianqin. Although Jianqin had the Grand Elder of Mercenary City by his side, Tianjin's status in Mercenary City was not something that regular people could see. As for Ruijin and Blackfish, they were no different from regular people in the eyes of the mercenaries. They posed no threat at all. However, just when the mercenaries were about to step forward, a powerful battle intent suddenly surged over. It struck their heads heavily like a hammer. The battle intent did not bestow upon them the will to fight. Instead, it was an extremely powerful pressure and deterrence, directly shattering any desire for battle within the mercenaries. It made them feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. They were completely frightened out of their wits. They no longer had the courage to step forward and stop Jianqin. The person who stopped them was obviously Taita. Taita's control over his battle intent had basically reached perfection. Not only could his battle intent affect a person's mind and make them lose themselves in battle, but it could also shatter the opponent's desire for battle and break their minds, achieving the effect of defeating them without a fight. However, that was under the premise that the opponent was not too powerful. Big brother, don't go too far. If any baddies try to bully you, Shaoling will help you chase them away. Xiao Ling's voice rang in Jianqin's head as soon as he emerged from the barrier of Mercenary City. She seemed to know what Jianqin was going to do next. In the end, Jianqin stopped in an empty area 10 kilometers away from Mercenary City. He opened the ice coffin and slowly closed his eyes, preparing to use the 3 soul-controlling techniques. Rui Jin, Blackfish, Tianjin, Mingdong, and Tai Ta stood to one side quietly. On one hand, they wanted to witness the resurrection abilities of a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master, while on the other hand, they wanted to protect Jianqin and prevent anyone from interfering. Tianjin stared at Jianqin's back with mixed feelings. He thought, the sea goddess is still alive, the war god of the 100 races has reappeared, and even the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger, has appeared. In this world, 3 of the 4 great races have already produced supreme experts. Only our Tian Yuan continent hasn't. Jianqin's talent is unprecedented, reaching such a level of cultivation at such a young age. He also has a mysterious relationship with the barrier spirit of Mercenary City. Looks like he'll be the hope of the Tian Yuan continent, thought Tianjin. Tianjin thought inside. He had already thought of this when Jianqin became a saint ruler, but he had only become even more certain now. The other people present had no idea what Tianjin was thinking. They all stared at Jianqin. Jianqin slowly closed his eyes. A strand of milky white energy slowly hovered above his head. This was the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force. Under the control of Jianqin, the origin energy was split into 2. One strand fused with Bai Yuntian in the ice coffin, while the other floated in the air. Immediately, Bai Yuntian was enveloped by a dense, milky white light. Afterward, Jianqin gently extended a finger and shot out a weak strand of energy, cutting open Bai Yuntian's wrist and extracting a droplet of blood. Under the control of Jianqin's mind, the droplet of blood slowly fused with the origin energy hovering in the air, dyeing it red. He then gently said, with the blood as a guide, gather the souls in the air. The first of the 3 soul-controlling techniques, soul congregation. The origin energy that had fused with Bai Yuntian's droplet of blood dispersed in the air. It used Bai Yuntian's droplet of blood as a guide to search for the scattered souls in the surroundings. Jianqin remained with his eyes closed. He did not move at all. At that moment, his soul seemed to have fused with the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force, bringing him through space in search of familiar souls. A while later, the space before Jianqin began to distort slightly. The origin energy of Radiant Saint Force that had dispersed reappeared. The milky white light it gave off was even more dazzling and bright. A speck of red and a few souls could be vaguely seen within the milky white light. This was Bai Yuntian's soul. Jianqin had used his blood as a guide to use soul congregation, gathering Bai Yuntian's soul. To one side, Tianjin, Ruijin, Blackfish, and Taita all narrowed their eyes. They were all saint rulers, so they could obviously sense the existence of Bai Yuntian's soul. This made them extremely surprised. Although they were powerful and were at the peak of the Holy Emperor level, the ability to gather souls was not something they could do. The second of the 3 soul-controlling techniques, soul congregation. Jianqin forcefully suppressed his excitement and called out again. With that, Bai Yuntian's soul began to rapidly condense, turning into a faint figure in the end. The third of the 3 soul-controlling techniques, soul fusion. Jianqin's lips trembled as he spat out the words briskly. Afterwards, under the control of his mind, Bai Yuntian's soul and the droplet of blood slowly fused with the body in the coffin under the nourishment of the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force. He carried out the final step of reviving her. Bai Yuntian's entire body was enveloped by a bright, milky white light, causing her figure to fade in and out of existence. After completing this step, Jianqin exhaled deeply. He stared at Bai Yuntian in the coffin with mixed emotions and excitement. His face was filled with eagerness. Chapter 991. The final step of resurrection, the fusion of the soul with the body, required some time. It did not progress as quickly as the first two steps. Bai Yuntian's entire body was enveloped by a layer of bright, milky white light. It gradually filled the entire coffin, enveloping it completely. Her soul gradually fused with her body under the assistance of the radiant saint force origin energy in her head. Jianchen, Tianjian, and the others stared at Bai Yuntian in the coffin. They were all filled with eagerness. The bright, white light from the radiant saint force origin energy was discovered by a few mercenaries entering and leaving Mercenary City. It immediately drew over quite a few mercenaries, but before they could even approach the coffin, they were stopped by an invisible force. They were unable to advance any further. However, this did not diminish their curiosity at all. They all watched from afar, causing more and more people to gather in the end. Very soon, it attracted the attention of a few experienced, older mercenaries who immediately cried out, "That's Radiant Saint Force that can only be controlled by Radiant Saint Force. Look at how the person is lying in the coffin. Is a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master using a heaven-defying technique to reverse life and death, reviving the person in the coffin?" It was like a tossed stone that caused 1,000 ripples. The mercenaries who had gathered in the surroundings all became shocked. They immediately stared at Jianchen and the others with shining eyes. Their gazes were filled with undisguised respect and envy. Regular Radiant Saint Masters were extremely common in Mercenary City and would not attract the attention of anyone. However, Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters were a completely different story. This was because there were just far too few Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters on the Tianyuan continent. Even with the entire continent in perspective, there were only around 20 of them. They were even rarer than the Holy Emperor. Yet a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master who was using a heaven-defying technique to reverse life and death had actually appeared outside Mercenary City. This was an extremely rare matter. It might not even be seen once in several millennia. The news of a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master using a heaven-defying technique to revive people quickly spread into the city, immediately causing a great uproar. Immediately, even more people rushed out of the city. They all wanted to personally witness the heaven-defying ability of a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. There were even a few people from large clans and organizations who wanted to rope him in or recruit a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. Very soon, a large group of people gathered outside Mercenary City. All of them stopped 5 kilometers away to watch while a few Heaven Saint Masters rose into the air, hovering high in the sky as they watched. It was not that they did not want to approach, but that no one possessed the ability to get within 5 kilometers of the city. Although Jianchen and the others were aware of the situation around them, they didn't care about it. All of their attention was on Bai Yuntian, who was inside the ice coffin. Time passed silently. The sky darkened and brightened. In the blink of an eye, 24 hours had passed. During those 24 hours, Bai Yuntian, who was enveloped by the white light, did not change at all. Jianchen and the others stood there like statues for an entire day and night. Aside from them, there was a large group of people who had emerged from Mercenary City, 5 kilometers away. Although a day had already passed, their numbers did not decrease at all. Instead, they constantly increased. They formed a circle around Jianchen and the others. At this moment, the milky white light around Bai Yuntian began to recede. It gradually vanished at a visible rate. Those with good eyesight would be able to tell that the milky white light was not vanishing. Instead, it was slowly entering Bai Yuntian's body and being absorbed by her. Jianchen's eyes suddenly narrowed at Bai Yuntian's change. He immediately closed his eyes and carefully sensed the state of Bai Yuntian's soul with the 3 soul-controlling techniques. When he opened his eyes again, his face had been completely replaced by joy. "It's a success! It's a success! My mother's soul has successfully fused with her body," Jianchen said with a trembling voice. He was overjoyed. He had been looking forward to this day for far, far too long. Mingdong, Taita, and the others smiled as well. They all felt happy for Jianqin for reviving their parents. The milky white light completely vanished, and the paleness on Bai Yuntian's face slowly receded. It was replaced by a rosy complexion. However, she did not completely awaken. According to the records of the 3 soul-controlling techniques, revived people will not immediately awaken. Their souls are still extremely weak right now, so they are unable to control their bodies. They will need some time to recover, 3 days at most. Jianqin murmured excitedly. Without any hesitation, he used the 3 soul-controlling techniques again to revive Changyangba. After spending another day, Jianqin successfully summoned Changyangba's soul as well. He successfully fused with his body, but he still did not awaken. His soul was still very weak, so he needed some time to recover in his body. Only then would he be able to control his body and awaken. Jianqin's excitement had already reached its limit after both his parents had been revived. He was unable to calm down for quite some time. Jianqin, let's take your parents to Mercenary City first, so that they can slowly awaken. Tianjian looked at the growing crowd in the surroundings and said softly. Jianqin agreed to Tianjian's suggestion without any hesitation. He wanted to find a quiet and comfortable place for his parents to awaken. Afterwards, Jianqin directly took to the air with Tianjian and the others, flying towards Mercenary City. He directly entered the city through the air. Mercenary City had an ironclad rule, which was that no one was allowed to fly within the city, or they would be punished by the barrier spirit. However, Jianqin and the others did not receive any punishment when they swaggered into the city. All the mercenaries widened their eyes at the sight of this. Their gazes were filled with undisguised envy. They must be the upper echelon of Mercenary City. Only the upper echelon of Mercenary City have the right to fly within the city, many mercenaries discussed. Jianqin did not return to the Divine Hall. Instead, he followed Tianjian to another space that had been opened up within Mercenary City. He resided in a luxurious palace as he quietly waited for his parents to awaken. Ruijin and Blackfish remained outside. The fact that the 2 of them could enter Mercenary City was already Xiao Ling's special kindness. As for the space that had been opened up within Mercenary City, it was forbidden for outsiders to enter. Jianqin, Mingdong, and Taita silently waited beside Bai Yuntian and Changyangba for them to wake up. After painstakingly waiting for 2 days, Bai Yuntian's fingers finally twitched slightly. Her tightly shut eyes slowly opened as confusion filled them. "Mother, you've finally woken up!" Jianqin called out with a trembling voice as tears uncontrollably flowed from his eyes. Bai Yuntian's eyes narrowed when she heard the familiar voice. The confusion in her eyes rapidly vanished as she immediately looked in the direction of the voice. She immediately discovered Jianqin's extremely familiar face with that glance. "Xiang'er!" Bai Yuntian cried out as memories of the past flooded her mind. In the end, she stopped at the scene of the 5 old fogies causing havoc in Chanyang Prefecture. As soon as she thought of that, Bai Yuntian's face suddenly changed. She cried out, "Xiang'er, run! There's a saint ruler who wants to capture you." Having just woken up, Bai Yuntian did not realize that she was no longer in the Chanyang Prefecture of the past. She instinctively wanted to stand up from the bed. But as soon as she moved, she felt powerless. She no longer had the energy to stand up. "Mother, lie down and don't move. Have a good rest first. What happened in the past is already in the past. Those saint rulers can't bully me anymore." Jianqin gently told Bai Yuntian to lie down in a hurry. The action just now seemed to have exhausted all of Bai Yuntian's strength. Bai Yuntian lay on the bed and gasped for breath for a while. Then she said intermittently, "What's wrong with me? Why don't I have any strength?" Bai Yuntian's eyes suddenly narrowed as soon as she reached there. Shock filled her eyes as she murmured, "I clearly remember that I died at the hands of that saint ruler, so how am I still alive?" Xiang'e, what's going on? All right, where is this? It doesn't seem like Changyang Prefecture. Mother, this is Mercenary City. Jianchen explained the entire situation to Bai Yuntian. What did you say? Xiang'e, it's already been 10 years? And did you save my life with a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master's resurrection technique? Bai Yuntian immediately became tongue-tied after learning about what had happened in the past few years. Disbelief filled her face. Jianchen nodded. Mother and father as well. I've saved father as well, but he's still unconscious right now. He'll wake up soon. Afterwards, Jianchen, Mingdong, and Taita sat beside Bai Yuntian's bed and chatted with her. They told her everything that had happened in the past few years and the changes in Changyang Prefecture. However, they hid a few things from her. Half a day later, Changyangba woke up as well. He learned about his current situation from Jianchen very quickly, and he was also tongue-tied from shock. He only calmed down after quite a while. No one was more excited than Jianchen now that his parents had both woken up. In all these years, Jianchen had never been as happy as he was today. Jianchen chatted with his parents for a while before leaving with the three of them. He left them a quiet environment for them to rest properly, and at the same time, he gave them some time to recover. In the next few days, Jianchen first used 100-year-old heavenly resources to brew a gentle medicinal soup for the two elders. Afterwards, he slowly increased the number of heavenly resources that were several hundred years old, several thousand years old, and several thousand years old. The two of them had just been revived, so their souls had been separated from their bodies for many years. Although their bodies were perfectly preserved and had been nourished by the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force, they were still in an extremely different state from ordinary people. They needed to slowly recover. Under the nourishment of the heavenly resources, Bai Yuntian and Changyangba's weak bodies rapidly recovered. In just half a month, they had completely recovered. Chapter 992. After his parents had been revived, Jianchen's greatest wish had been fulfilled. He had been extremely happy for the past few days. Half a month later, Jianchen, Bai Yuntian, and Changyangba, who had completely recovered, gathered together. Bai Yuntian and Changyangba's faces were filled with heavy thoughts. Xiang'e, we've already stayed in Mercenary City for so long. It's time to leave. Let's return to Changyang Prefecture, said Bai Yuntian. Sigh. So much time has passed in the blink of an eye. Xiang'e, we've already left Changyang Prefecture for far too long. Although we've already learned a few things about Changyang Prefecture from you, we still want to hurry back because that's our home, said Bai Yuntian with a sigh. The thought of returning home had already occupied the couple's minds for half a month, but they had never expressed it because their bodies had always been weak. Jianchen agreed without any hesitation when he heard his parents. Father, Mother, since you want to go back so badly, let's leave Mercenary City as soon as possible. Jianchen seemed to think of something when he reached there. He hesitated for a while before saying with a complicated expression, Father, Mother, the Changyang clan has changed a lot. I hid some things from you in order to let you recover in peace when your souls had just fused with your bodies. Jianchen had indeed told Bai Yuntian and Bai Yuntian about the situation in Changyang Prefecture over 10 days ago. However, he did not go into detail and hid a lot of things. He did not mention anything about the protector clans. He only did this so that his parents could recover peacefully after being revived. After all, the relationship between Changyang Prefecture in Lore City and the protector clan of Changyang Prefecture on the Tianyuan continent was just too shocking to the two of them. Now that Bai Yuntian and Changyangba had completely recovered, Jianchen no longer had any worries. He told them about some of the more detailed matters regarding Changyang Prefecture, including the situation of the 10 protector clans and the return of the founder of Changyang Prefecture, Changyang Zuyinshao, who is known as the Changyang ancestor. Changyangba and Bai Yuntian were about to return to Changyang Prefecture. Jianchen only wanted them to understand the current situation of Changyang Prefecture beforehand so that they could be mentally prepared. That way, they would not be stunned when they returned to Changyang Prefecture. Changyang Ba and Baiyun Tian became tongue-tied once again after learning about these matters. Their hearts churned, unable to calm down for quite some time. The two of them had never thought that Changyang Prefecture would possess such a deep background. They had never thought that the founder of Changyang Prefecture in Lore City would actually be a direct descendant of one of the 10 protector clans on the continent. Jianchen left the room, leaving the two of them with some peace and quiet. Jianchen only briefly described what he had gone through in the past few years. He did not go into detail. He had experienced quite a lot of bloodshed in the past few years. He had walked on the brink of death many times, so he did not plan on telling his parents about these matters, lest they worry. At the same time, Jianchen did not mention the enmity between him and the protector clans. Changyang Ba and Baiyun Tian could not participate in the conflict between him and the protector clans. If he told his parents about these matters, it would only increase their burden. Afterward, Jianchen found Mingdong and Taita. He had already learned from Tianjian that Mingdong had reached the peak of Heaven Saint Master long ago. He had been stuck at the bottleneck of Saint Ruler in the past few years, unable to break through. Jianchen took out 3 white beast furs and a scroll from his space ring and passed them to Mingdong. He said, "Mingdong, these things can assist you in comprehending the mysteries of the world and breaking through to Saint Ruler. I relied on them to reach Saint Ruler in the past. Just stay in Mercenary City and focus on cultivating so that you can reach Saint Ruler sooner." Mingdong did not try to be courteous. He accepted the 3 beast furs and the scroll from Jianchen and firmly nodded. He said, "Don't worry, Jianchen. When we meet again, I'll definitely be a Saint Ruler." At this moment, the white-robed Tianjian walked in from outside. He casually glanced at the items in Mingdong's hand. At first, he did not pay much attention to them, but in the next moment his eyes suddenly narrowed. He stared at the 3 white beast skins in Mingdong's hand, and with a slight movement of his body, he arrived before Mingdong in an instant. He casually took the 3 snow-white beast skins from Mingdong's hand and studied them carefully. He became surprised and uncertain. Tianjian's reaction stunned Mingdong, Jianchen, and Taita. Soon after, Jianchen seemed to realize something. A gleam of light flashed through his eyes as he asked, "Senior Tianjian, do you recognize these 3 beast furs?" Tianjian did not answer immediately. He held the beast furs in his hand for quite a while before nodding slightly. He looked at Jianchen in interest. "Jianchen, where did you obtain these 3 beast furs?" "I obtained them from a place I didn't know before." "Senior Tianjian, do you know the secret behind these 3 beast furs?" Jianchen asked. He had already obtained some basic information about the beast furs from Mo Tianyin, but his knowledge was still limited. Aside from knowing that there were a total of 18 beast furs, and that only the soul of the Holy Emperor could fuse with them, he knew nothing else. Jianchen had always been extremely curious about the secrets behind the beast furs. After a moment of silence, Tianjian said, "Our mercenary city also has one of these beast furs. An elder of our mercenary city came across it several 100,000 years ago by chance and has kept it ever since. There's a mysterious and powerful energy hidden in the beast furs. When this energy is hidden, no one can sense it at all. Once it awakens, it can manifest the mysteries of the world. It's extremely wondrous. Moreover, the beast furs are extremely tough. No one in the world can damage it at all. Even I am nowhere close to being able to do it. In the past, many seniors of our mercenary city have tried to guess the secret behind the beast furs. Aside from suspecting that it was the furs of the winged tiger, they have come up with nothing else." Tianjian gently rubbed the white beast furs in his hand as he murmured to himself, "Our mercenary city has one of these beast furs, and the protector clans still have 6 of them. Coupled with the 3 in your hands, there are already 10 of them. I wonder how many of these beast furs there are in total." Jianchen could not help but feel disappointed when he failed to obtain an answer from Tianjin. However, it was not like he had come up empty-handed. At the very least, he knew the whereabouts of the other 7 beast furs. One of them was in Mercenary City, 6 of them were in the Protector clans, and only 8 of them were missing. These beast furs can only be fused with the soul of the Holy Emperor. There's no hurry. Jianchen thought. He had already made up his mind. He would definitely find a way to gather all the beast furs in the future. Tianjin passed the beast furs back to Mingdong and said, "With the assistance of these 3 beast furs, it'll only be a matter of time before you break through to Saint Ruler. It's just a pity that the beast furs of Mercenary City were placed in the divine hall left behind by the city, lord by a grand elder who had reached the level of the Holy Emperor. I can't take them out at all, or I would have lent them to you long ago so that you could reach Saint Ruler sooner." Afterward, Tianjin looked at Jianchen and said, "Jianchen, I know you're leaving. Take your parents with you. Mingdong and Tai Ta can stay here. Once Mingdong becomes a Saint Ruler, he'll obviously go find you. However, Tai Ta's identity is rather special. His body's characteristics have become even more obvious since his body has been completely awakened. You've also come into contact with the Protector clans very frequently recently, so Tai Ta can't go back with you. Otherwise, once the Protector clans recognize him, even I won't be able to do anything. This is because he's not a human, and the previous war god has a blood feud with the Protector clans." Jianchen nodded silently. Tianjin was right. Tai Ta's identity was just far too special. Before his strength had reached the level where he could stand up to the Protector clans, it was best if he did not reveal himself before them. Once Tai Ta's identity was exposed, Jianchen would definitely stand on his side. However, once he helped Tai Ta, the Protector clans that hated him would immediately label him as a traitor. Even the Changyang prefecture of Lore City would be dragged into the mess. The consequences would be extremely severe. Tai Ta's face immediately darkened when he heard Tianjin's words. His heart became extremely heavy. Jianchen patted Tai Ta's chest and said, "Tai Ta, cultivate here at ease for now. I'll come back in a few days." Tai Ta nodded and remained silent. Chapter 993. With Ruijin and Blackfish following him, Jianchen's journey back was extremely easy. He directly got Blackfish to open a space gate and crossed over 1,000,000 kilometers with a single step, directly appearing above Changyang Prefecture. Jianchen was completely certain that Ruijin and Blackfish were only following him to protect the winged tiger. As a result, Jianchen had already become accustomed to Ruijin and Blackfish following him closely. Jianchen originally wanted to visit Qin Shao in the Tianqin clan in Walnut City, but when he considered how it would be inappropriate to take his parents, Ruijin and Blackfish with him, he gave up on that idea. He planned to deal with the matters at hand soon before visiting the Tianqin clan alone. After 10 years, he had no idea how Qin Shao was doing right now. Was he married? Did he have a child? Did he have any idea how much his strength had grown? Jianchen, Ruijin, and Blackfish returned to Changyang Prefecture with Bayuntian and Changyangba, which immediately caused a great uproar in the prefecture. This was because very few people knew that Jianchen was a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. As a result, many people in Changyang Prefecture were extremely shocked by Bayuntian and Changyangba's return from the dead. Changyang Zuyun Shao and Changyang Zhu Yunkong attached great importance to the return of Changyangba and Bayuntian. They both cast aside their lofty statuses to personally welcome them. They were extremely polite and did not put on airs just because they were Bayuntian's seniors. This was because Jianchen, who was the pride of Changyang Prefecture, was the son of Bayuntian and Changyangba. Changyangba and Bayuntian had some understanding of the current situation in Changyang Prefecture before they had returned, so they did not become flustered or surprised when they saw the couple and the Changyang ancestor. They politely bowed to the 3 of them. After all, they were Changyang Zhu Yunkong's descendants. Bayuntian and Changyangba were both quick-witted people. When they saw how the lofty couple actually treated them so politely, they immediately understood that it was all because of their son. They could not help but feel extremely proud, but they did not become arrogant. That night, Changyang Zhu Yinshao personally hosted a banquet to welcome Changyang Ba and Bai Yuntian. Even the king of the kingdom of Jessen, who was thousands of kilometers away, ran over. He warmly tried to befriend Changyang Ba and Bai Yuntian. He had made up his mind to stick to them no matter what, because in Changyang Prefecture he was only friends with Changyang Ba and Bai Yuntian aside from Jianchen. During the banquet that night, the king of the kingdom of Jessen brought up the matter of his daughter, Yu, and Jianchen's marriage to Changyang Ba and Bai Yuntian again. He used various reasons in an attempt to facilitate the marriage as soon as possible. He was eager for Jianchen to become his son-in-law as soon as possible. As parents, Changyang Ba and Bai Yuntian obviously agreed to the kingdom of Jessen's suggestion. They were eager for Jianchen to marry Yu as soon as possible. But with Jianchen's current status and identity, the two of them could not force Jianchen to marry Yu. They had to ask for Jianchen's opinion. Jianchen had just returned to the Tianyuan continent, so he still had a large pile of matters to deal with. First, he had to save the White Tiger's mother, Rum Guinness, and avenge the White Tiger's father. There was also the matter of the Bai family's annihilation, Taita's identity, the threat from the beast god continent, Poseidon's mission, and so on. All of these required a lot of time, so he did not have the time to think about matters of the heart. As a result, he naturally pushed it off again and again. Although he knew that he would be letting Yu down, there was nothing he could do about it. Yu, who sat beside Jianchen, was obviously overjoyed when she heard her father mention marriage to Jianchen again. She was filled with anticipation, but she was still extremely disappointed in the end. Xiang'er, you're not young anymore. It's time for you to consider your marriage. Yu, our has been waiting for you for over a decade now. Do you want Yu to keep waiting? Bai Yuntian advised sincerely. She was very fond of Yu as her daughter-in-law. Jianchen was filled with guilt as well. He said, "Mother, I'll find a time to marry you, once I've dealt with the matters at hand." As he said that, Jianchen could not help but think of Huang Wan, who was deeply in love with him, as well as the heavenly enchantress of Three Saint Island, whom he had been forced to have intimate relations with. His feelings immediately became mixed. "Auntie, let's wait for Jianchen to deal with his matters first. Yu is busy with the matters of the Flame Mercenaries right now, so I'm in no mood to talk about relationships." Yu gently replied. Her soft voice was as pleasant as a lark's, and it was extremely pleasant. Although she said that, Yu still looked at Jianchen with a sliver of hidden bitterness. During the banquet, Changyang Zhu Yunkong announced Changyang Ba as the patriarch of the Changyang Prefecture once again. He would be responsible for all the matters of the clan, so the position of patriarch that had been vacant for many years finally had a successor. Although the position of patriarch did not represent anything, it at least demonstrated Changyang Zhu Yunkong's recognition and love for Changyang Ba. The sky had completely darkened by the end of the banquet, but the Changyang clan was still brightly lit. Groups of guards walked around with their chests held high as they patrolled the area in high spirits. They constantly scanned the surroundings with their eagle-like gazes. Jianchen and Yu strolled through the rather gloomy back garden. They walked side by side without saying a single word. Jianchen remained calm. He would ponder from time to time, as if he had a lot on his mind, while Yu would glance at Jianchen from time to time. Her eyes were bright and enchanting. In the end, Jianchen and Yu arrived at a pavilion in the garden. The night breeze blew gently. Jianchen stood with his hands behind his back, gazing at the schools of fish swimming in the lake. His luxurious white robes gently swayed in the breeze. "Jianchen, is there something on your mind?" Yu stared at Jianchen with bright eyes. She gently opened her mouth and exhaled. I'm really sorry. I've made you wait all these years. However, I really have a lot of things to do right now. Jianchen said apologetically. His heart was filled with guilt. Yu gently raised her arm and covered Jianchen's mouth with her slender fingers. She stopped Jianchen from continuing. She looked at Jianchen affectionately and said gently, Jianchen, don't say anything. Yu knows that you've had a hard time all these years. Although you seem to be very impressive on the surface, you've risked your life in exchange for this glory. You've always worked hard to increase your strength. You've walked on the edge of life and death countless times. Your days have been more difficult than anyone else's. The soul-stirring scenes you've experienced have far exceeded anyone's expectations. Jianchen, don't worry and go deal with your own matters. Although Yu's strength is weak and can't help you much, I will silently wait for you here. I will quietly stand behind you and follow your shadow, silently supporting you from behind. Hearing this, Jianchen's gaze, which was originally looking at the fish in the lake, suddenly landed on Yu's face. Looking at Yu's beautiful and haggard face, his heart was deeply touched once again. Jianchen softly called out. He opened his arms and tightly hugged Yu. Immediately, a faint fragrance entered Jianchen's nose. In addition to Yu's exquisite figure, it immediately made Jianchen feel intoxicated. Suddenly being embraced by Jianchen, Yu's eyes clearly showed some panic. However, she quickly calmed down and a faint blush appeared on her cheeks. She extended her arms to hug Jianchen's body and quietly leaned her head on Jianchen's shoulder. She slowly closed her eyes and carefully experienced this wonderful moment. At this moment, Yu felt as if she had the entire world. Being together with the person she loved the most, what could be more wonderful than this in the world? After a moment, Yu's gentle voice sounded. Jianchen, I know you won't be staying in Changyang Prefecture for long. Can I tell you when you'll be leaving? Jianchen was silent for a moment and then said with difficulty, Tomorrow! Yu's delicate body clearly trembled. She looked at Jianchen with a face full of reluctance and said, You just came back. Can't you stay at home for a few more days? Jianchen slowly nodded and said, There are some things that I have to deal with as soon as possible. Yu's arms around Jianchen's body tightened. After hesitating for a moment, she said, Jianchen, Yu wants to be with you. If there's no danger, let Yu go with you. Hearing this, Jianchen's face revealed a hesitant expression. After thinking for a moment, he realized that what he was going to do next was not dangerous. In addition, Ruijin and Blackfish were by his side, as well as the double protection of the 8 Wastelands Divine Hall and the Sacred Tool. You should not encounter any danger, so he simply agreed. Chapter 994. Seeing that Jianchen had agreed to her small request, Yu's face immediately lit up with excitement. She was extremely happy. The next morning, Jianchen took Yu and left Changyang Prefecture with Ruijin and Blackfish. Strong winds howled in the sky, blowing on their bodies like the raging waves of the sea, forming a terrifying sound wave that exploded in their ears like the sound of thunder. Jianchen held Yu's slender breasts as they flew in a straight line towards an unknown direction. Around the two of them, there was a layer of protective shield formed by heaven and earth yuan qi, blocking the gale that was blowing towards them. Yu's beautiful face blushed slightly as she was held in Jianchen's arms. However, her face was filled with excitement. She smiled faintly as she glanced back and forth between the scenery below and Jianchen's face. Jianchen, where are we going next? Will it be dangerous? Yu stared at Jianchen with bright eyes. Her voice was filled with unconcealable excitement. This was the first time she had begun to wander around the Tianyuan continent since she was young. Moreover, she was following beside the person she liked and admired the most. How could she not be excited? Jianchen flipped his hand, and a white tiger fur suddenly appeared in his hand. This tiger fur was left behind by the white tiger's mother, Rum Guinness, to make it easier to find her in the future. Jianchen handed the tiger fur to the white tiger that had been lying quietly on his shoulder the entire time. He said, "Little White, whether or not we can find your mother will depend on you." The white tiger on Jianchen's shoulder immediately perked up. It suddenly stood up and widened its eyes. It stared at the white fur in Jianchen's hand without blinking at all. Its pure eyes became filled with a rare mix of emotions. Although the white tiger had not opened its eyes when it left its mother, Rum Guinness, it did not even know what its mother looked like. However, it would never be wrong about its mother's scent. This was the innate intuition of beasts. Humans did not possess this ability at all. Woo-woo! The white tiger whimpered a few times. It seemed to be crying sadly, but it also seemed to be saying something in its own language that Jianchen did not understand at all. Suddenly smelling its mother's scent seemed to make the white tiger feel pained for missing its mother. Although the white tiger was already a magical beast of the 7th level, it had not matured for long. Its current state of mind was even more childish than Xiaoling from Mercenary City. The white tiger gently raised a furry front paw. It opened its mouth slightly and spat out a wind blade, cutting open its front paw. A drop of dark red blood immediately flew out and landed accurately on the white fur in Jianchen's hand. This was a strand of fur left behind by Rum Guinness. Only a drop of the white tiger's blood could activate it. The blood was absorbed by the tiger fur. The originally white fur immediately turned bright red and emitted a demonic red light. Soon after, the tiger fur struggled free from Jianchen's hand and flew off into the distance like lightning. Jianchen tightened his grip around Yu's waist. His body became one with the surrounding space. Borrowing the power of space, he turned into a blur as he chased after the tiger fur. At this moment, in the extreme north of the Tianyuan continent, there was a swamp that was enveloped by poisonous mist all year round. Countless poisonous insects and beasts lived in the swamp, and there was no lack of Class 6 magical beasts among them. The swamp was an extremely desolate region in the extreme north of the Tianyuan continent. This was because the poisonous mist there was just too powerful. Even Earth Saint Masters were unable to resist it. Many antidotes were unable to prevent the poison, so the swamp had become a forbidden zone for many mercenaries. Only Heaven Saint Masters could survive there. In the middle of this swamp, there was an area covered by a lethal poison that was formed from green fog. Intense rumbling sounds were continuously being emitted. Waves of wild and violent energy ripples shook the poison fog, causing it to continuously churn. Inside, there were over a dozen experts hovering in the air. Powerful attacks were unleashed one after another from their hands, all of which bombarded the swamp below. Under their crazy bombardment, a large crater had been created in the swamp below, revealing an underground cave covered by a barrier. The light of the barrier was dim, and under the attacks of more than a dozen people, it was shaking more and more violently, faintly showing signs of being unable to hold on and shattering. Everyone, keep it up. The barrier is running out of energy. It'll break very soon. A silver-haired old man in luxurious golden robes hovered high in the air. He coldly stared at the barrier that was about to fall as he commanded the Heaven Saint Masters to attack the barrier in turns, constantly exhausting its energy. The old man was the patriarch of a large clan nearby. At the same time, he was the strongest person in the group. He had already become a saint ruler, but he was only a first heavenly layer saint ruler. Old Ho, are you sure that there's a heavily injured Class 7 magical beast hiding in the barrier? The Class 7 magical beast is in existence at the same level as Old Ho, and the battle prowess of magical beasts is naturally greater than ours. If we break the barrier, we'll definitely anger the magical beast. If the magical beast isn't as weak as we think it is, we'll be in big trouble, a Heaven Saint Master who attacked the barrier worriedly asked. The golden-robed old man referred to as Old Ho coldly glanced at the Heaven Saint Master who had spoken. His gaze stabbed into the Heaven Saint Master's heart like a sword, immediately causing him to tremble. Fear filled his heart. Everyone below Saint Ruler was an ant. Even though Old Ho was a first heavenly layer Saint Ruler, Heaven Saint Masters were still as weak as ants in his eyes. Don't worry. Ever since I discovered the oddity of this place a few months ago, I've always been paying attention to this place. I've already confirmed that there's a heavily injured, Class 7 magical beast hiding in the barrier. It should be healing here, so it's no longer a threat to me, Old Ho indifferently said. His voice was filled with great confidence. He did not participate in the attack on the barrier. He could already tell that the magical beast who had cast down the barrier was definitely stronger than him. If it were not for the fact that the magical beast was heavily injured, he really would not have dared to provoke it. Right now, he needed to maintain his peak condition to deal with the counterattack from the magical beast. A Class 7 monster core is like a supreme treasure on the Tianyuan continent. It's extremely valuable. If I can obtain a Class 7 magical beast core and completely absorb its energy, my strength will definitely increase, Old Ho thought inside. At this moment, a snow-white, 3-meter-long white tiger lay on the ground in a gloomy cave within the barrier. She glanced at the constantly shaking barrier with her weak eyes. Her eyes were filled with despair. She was the white tiger's mother, Rum Guinness. Rum Guinness had been heavily injured by the Tiger King of the Gilligan clan. She was already on the brink of death and extremely weak. Coupled with the power left behind by the Tiger King within her, it was impossible to purge it unless one was a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. Although Jianqin had sealed it back then with his abilities as a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master, it also restricted Rum Guinness' strength and recovery. She needed to use all her strength to suppress the sealed power of darkness, or it would break through the seal of Radiant Saint Force. At that time, she would definitely die. Rum Guinness had also used up a lot of her power after maintaining the seal for so many years. She did not even have 1/100th of her peak condition left. Once the barrier was destroyed, even Heaven Saint Masters would be able to kill her, let alone Saint Rulers. This was because once she moved, the seal created by Jianqin with Radiant Saint Force would be destroyed by the power left behind by the Tiger King. Chapter 995. My child, it's a pity that I won't be able to see you again. I wonder how you're doing right now and whether you've suffered with that human, thought Rum Guinness inside. Rum Guinness thought to herself. Now her heart was filled with despair. She knew that without the support of backup, the barrier she set up would not be able to hold on for long. Once the barrier was broken, she would have no choice but to leave. Although she was a powerful magical beast of the 7th step, she was no longer at her peak. She didn't have the strength she used to have. Now that she was on the verge of death, the person she missed the most and worried about the most was her child. Booms constantly rang out from outside the barrier. Over a dozen Heaven Saint Masters constantly bombarded the barrier under the command of the Saint Ruler, causing its power to rapidly weaken. Elder Ho hovered in the air with his arms crossed. He coldly stared the barrier below, and vigilance filled his eyes. He had been accumulating his strength long ago, secretly preparing to act at any time to prevent the Class 7 magical beasts hiding in the barrier. The magical beasts had suddenly charged out of the barrier to attack him. In the distance, Jianqin carried Yu as the white tiger stood on his shoulder. He followed the strand of hair to the extreme north. That was where Rum Guinness was hiding. To Jianqin's side, Ruijin and Black Fish followed closely as well. Although they possessed the ability to create space gates, they did not know the exact location. They only had the strand of hair to lead the way, so they could only follow behind it. Even though they were flying in the air, their flying speed was still very fast with their strength. In the blink of an eye, several days passed. After flying for several days, Jianqin's group had passed through countless kingdoms and mountains of various sizes. They had crossed over 10 million kilometers and approached the extreme north. At the same time, a deafening boom rang out from the swamp. The barrier cast down by Rum Guinness had finally been destroyed due to exhaustion after being bombarded by over a dozen Heaven Saint Masters day and night. It revealed the dark entrance. The Heaven Saint Masters immediately retreated far away as soon as the barrier was destroyed. Elder Ho, on the other hand, carefully entered the cave by himself. He saw Rum Guinness lying there with a single glance. Rum Guinness' eyes were filled with weakness. They were dim and lifeless. She glanced at Elder Ho before slowly closing her eyes. She had already prepared herself for certain death. In her current state, she no longer had the ability to flee. Even if she used all her strength to put up a final resistance, she would not be able to harm a Peak Saint ruler. Elder Ho stood there cautiously as he stared at Rum Guinness. Only after confirming that the Class 7 magical beast before him was heavily injured did he relax slightly. However, he still did not dare to be careless. With a wave of his hand, a powerful ball of energy gathered before shooting toward Rum Guinness with lightning speed. Boom! With a great boom, Rum Guinness was blown away without being able to put up any resistance. She heavily slammed into the wall behind her before falling to the ground. Immediately, a few mouthfuls of blood spurted from her mouth. A vicious wound had appeared on her body as blood flowed out, dyeing her snow-white for red. The light in Rum Guinness' eyes dimmed as she became even weaker. Elder Ho could not help but laugh aloud when he saw this. "Looks like my worries were unnecessary. Your wounds are much more severe than I imagined. Looks like I'll be able to easily obtain a Class 7 monster core and the body of a Class 7 magical beast today." With that, energy gathered in Elder Ho's hand, and he sent another palm strike toward Rum Guinness. He did not dare to approach Rum Guinness due to how cautious he was. He was afraid that Rum Guinness would try to trick him. Just when Rum Guinness was injured, the white tiger that had been standing silently on Gentian's shoulder suddenly trembled. Two beams of light immediately shot out from its beady eyes as the tremendous presence of a Class 7 magical beast radiated from its tiny body. The presence was filled with fury. Roar! The white tiger let out a great roar at the sky. This time, it was not a whimper like before. Instead, it was a true tiger's roar. It shook up the sky, basically spreading across the entire horizon. Afterwards, the white tiger leapt off Jinshin's shoulder. Its divine wings that had been tightly folded on its back suddenly unfurled. As it flapped its wings, it turned into a streak of white light and flew off with unbelievable speed. It vanished in a single moment, as if it had teleported. It was extremely fast. The white tiger's sudden change stunned Jianshin and the others, but very soon, Jianshin realized something. His face immediately sank as he called out, "The white tiger's mother is probably in danger. Let's hurry over." "Jianshin, your comprehension of the mysteries of the world is too low. Let me take you with me." Blackfish's voice rang out in Jinshin's head. With a wave of his arm, an invisible energy immediately surrounded Jianshin and Yu. Afterwards, he did not hold back at all. He fused with the surrounding space, using the power of space to travel. He turned into a blur with Ruijin and immediately overtook the tiger fur that led the way. He chased after the white tiger. In the swamp shrouded in poisonous gas, Rum Guinness had suffered several heavy blows and was lying on the ground on the verge of death. Her entire body was dyed red with blood, and the blood on the ground had already gathered into a pool. The light in her eyes was dim, and it seemed that even her eyes were about to close. Old Ho smiled cruelly. He was finally fearless now. A curved blade appeared in his hand. He planned on dealing the final blow to Rum Guinness and ending her life completely. Roar! At this moment, a great roar rang out in the distance. The sound rapidly grew louder and louder. At first, it was still in the horizon, but it arrived in a single moment. This tiger roar contained a great amount of pressure, as if a high and mighty king was roaring. The magical beasts that lived in this poisonous swamp were all frightened, and all of them lay on the ground, trembling. They were not the only ones. Even the Heaven Saint Masters outside and Old Ho in the cave were stunned by the roar. However, as humans, they were not as affected. Chapter 996. Old Ho stood in the cave like a wooden chicken. The complacent expression from before could no longer be seen on his face. It had been completely replaced by deep fear. As a saint ruler, Old Ho was extremely knowledgeable. He knew quite a lot about Class 7 magical beasts. The battle prowess of Class 7 magical beasts was innately greater than humans of the same level. If a human of the same level of strength fought against a Class 7 magical beast, their chances of victory would be pitifully small. Although he was a saint ruler, he did not know any powerful battle skills. If he encountered a Class 7 magical beast, all he could do was flee. At the same time, he could tell from the roar that the Class 7 magical beast was far more powerful than him, making it even more impossible for him to deal with it. How is this possible? How can a Class 7 magical beast appear here? Old Ho murmured with a trembling voice. Without any hesitation, he no longer cared about killing Rum Guinness in the cave. He turned into a blur and fled outside as quickly as he could. At the same time, the Heaven Saint Masters outside all returned to their senses. Without needing any orders, they immediately fled into the distance as quickly as they could. They could already tell that the Class 7 magical beast that had roared out was a powerful magical beast at its peak, not the one that had been heavily injured in the cave. Even the respected Old Ho could not fight against a Class 7 magical beast at its peak condition. The Heaven Saint Masters and Old Ho basically shot off into the distance at the same time. Old Ho had fused with the surrounding space as he used his Saint Ruler abilities to travel extremely quickly, while the Heaven Saint Masters could only fly slowly through the air. In the blink of an eye, Old Ho had fled into the distance. Just when he was about to disappear into the horizon, a white figure caught up from behind at a speed countless times faster than Old Ho's. It crossed several dozen kilometers in the blink of an eye and blocked Old Ho's path. It was a gigantic white tiger with a winged back that was over 30 meters long. The white tiger hovered in the air in a majestic manner, blocking Old Ho's path. Its eyes were no longer pure. Instead, they shone with a vicious light, as if it was a bloodthirsty beast. The white tiger's unparalleled speed immediately made Old Ho pale in fright. The Class 7 magical beast before him was far more powerful than he had imagined. Roar! The enraged white tiger let out a deafening roar towards the sky. Without giving Elder Ho any more time to escape, it waved its front paw and directly grabbed Elder Ho's neck. Just as Elder Ho was about to dodge, he was horrified to find that the surrounding space had unknowingly solidified. His body was imprisoned there, unable to move at all. Pooh! Old Ho's neck was cut in half by the white tiger's sharp claws. His head was separated from his body. His body fell from the sky, while his head flew high into the air. The white tiger roared again and again. It opened its mouth and spat out an energy ball that emitted strong energy fluctuations. It directly collided with Elder Ho's head. Amidst a loud rumble, Elder Ho's head was instantly blasted into pieces, and his body and soul were destroyed. Although saint rulers were not that easy to kill, that was only under circumstances where the difference in strength was not too great. Regular saint rulers did not have the ability to flee before the winged tiger. The white tiger's anger did not decrease at all after killing Old Ho. It radiated with surging killing intent as it continued to pursue the remaining Heaven Saint Masters. Even though the Heaven Saint Masters had cleverly scattered and fled, how could they be faster than the winged tiger? Very soon, the white tiger caught up to them one by one. As the white tiger swung its claws, it directly tore the Heaven Saint Masters to pieces. Their corpses were cut to pieces and blood dyed the sky. Although the white tiger was still young, it had experienced quite a lot of things over the years with Jianshan. Even though it rarely fought, it had become accustomed to bloody scenes like this. As a result, it did not hold back at all. After killing all the Heaven Saint Masters, the white tiger did not seem to have completely vented its anger. It roared at the sky again, causing all the magical beasts in the swamp to tremble. They all prostrated themselves on the ground as fear filled their eyes. In the cave, the bloodied Rumginnis lay on the ground on the brink of death. Her dim eyes opened with great difficulty. Even though she was weak, they were filled with unconcealable excitement. As a magical beast, especially a high-grade magical beast, Rumginnis naturally had a special sense for her own flesh and blood. Ever since she heard the first tiger roar, she already knew that her child, who had been separated from her for many years, had returned. My child, my child, my child has returned. Rumginnis spoke with a weak voice. Her voice was weak, but it was filled with an indescribable excitement. As she spoke, blood constantly flowed from her mouth. She was in an extremely miserable state. Outside the cave, the winged little white tiger's body continued to shrink. In the end, it turned into a 1-meter-long white tiger. It walked into the cave step by step. The snow-white divine wings on its back opened slightly. There was a faint layer of gentle white light flickering. It was incomparably majestic. Eowyn! The white tiger stared sorrowfully at Rumginnis, who lay in a pool of blood on the verge of death. Its deep roar was trembling, as if it was crying. It could clearly feel its mother's presence grow weaker and weaker as her life force continued to drain away. Now that Rumginnis was heavily injured, she no longer had the power to lock up the seal within her body. The power of darkness had broken through and constantly ravaged her body. Child, my child, I thought I would never see you again. Now that I can see you one last time before I die, I can die without any regrets. Rumginnis spoke with an extremely weak voice. She struggled to open her eyes and looked at the majestic white tiger before her affectionately. Her eyes were filled with pride. At this moment, Jianqin, Yu, Ruijin, and Blackfish arrived at the same time. When Jianqin saw Rumginnis' situation, his face immediately changed. He arrived before Rumginnis in a flash, and a golden streak of light shot out from between his eyebrows. It landed in his hand, forming a palm-sized golden tower. Human, I was right about you. I can sense that my child has already grown into a Class 7 magical beast. Thank you for taking care of my child all these years. Rumginnis looked at Jianqin gratefully. Don't say anything. I'll save you immediately, Jianqin said sternly. The seal within me has already been broken. The power of darkness left behind by the ruler of the Gilligan clan is invading my soul. I'll be dead very soon. It's already too late, Rumginnis said in a broken voice. I'll use a strand of Radiant Saint Force origin energy to protect your soul. Don't worry, you can still be saved. With a thought, a strand of Radiant Saint Force origin energy immediately appeared from the top of Jianqin's head before quickly landing on the tip of his finger. With a point of his finger, the strand of Radiant Saint Force origin energy immediately shot into Rumginnis' body and vanished, preventing the power of darkness from invading any further. Without any hesitation, Jianqin immediately notified the artifact spirit to store Rumginnis in the artifact space. Rumginnis' situation was extremely dangerous right now. Although he could also heal Rumginnis with his abilities as a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master, the artifact spirit was more capable than him. For safety's sake, he decided to let the artifact spirit personally save Rumginnis. The white tiger nervously stared at the artifact spirit hovering in the air. It produced a deep roar, as if it was begging the artifact spirit to save its mother. Jianqin rubbed the white tiger's head and said, Xiaobai, don't worry. It's not like you don't know the abilities of the artifact spirit. Don't worry. It can definitely save your mother. Your mother will be fine. Let's enter the artifact space as well. Chapter 997. Rumginnis lay on the ground in the huge hall at the very center of the artifact space. Her breathing was extremely weak. The white-robed artifact spirit, who had turned into a middle-aged man, had already received Jianqin's orders. He appeared beside Rumginnis out of nowhere and extended a finger. Immediately, an extremely pure strand of Radiant Saint Force origin energy poured into Rumginnis' Guinness' body. Immediately, Rum Guinness became enveloped by a layer of dense, milky white light, completely obscuring her figure. It was impossible to see what was going on inside from the outside. Jianqin, Yu, and the White Tiger appeared in the hall as well. Jianqin and the White Tiger stared at Rum Guinness, who was enveloped by the white light. Yu, who had come here for the first time, was curious. She constantly looked around, studying everything. Rum Guinness' situation was extremely terrible. The dark power that the ruler of the Gilligan clan had left in her body was constantly destroying her body, and it was rapidly spreading towards her soul. If Jianqin had not arrived in time and protected Rum Guinness' soul with a strand of radiant Saint Force origin energy, Rum Guinness probably would have been doomed. It would have been very difficult for her to survive. Although Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters could revive the dead, that was only if their souls were still present. If their souls were destroyed, even the only Class 8 Radiant Saint Master in ancient times would not be able to save them, let alone Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters. The hall was strangely quiet. Jianqin and the White Tiger stared at Rum Guinness, who was enveloped by the white light. They did not make any sounds at all. Yu, who was filled with curiosity, gradually lost interest after looking around. She looked at Rum Guinness with her bright eyes and thought, "Is this Xiaobai's mother? She can speak, so she must be a Class 7 magical beast at the very least." The Radiant Saint Force origin energy, controlled by the artifact spirit, was much more powerful and pure than Jianqin's. Under the treatment of the artifact spirit, Rum Guinness' wounds rapidly healed. Her battered body slowly recovered as well. Even the dark power that had wreaked havoc in her body completely dispersed under the purification of the Radiant Saint Force origin energy. For hours later, the milky white light that enveloped Rum Guinness finally dissipated, revealing its original form. At this moment, the blood-stained red fur on her body had already disappeared, and was covered by a beautiful white tiger fur that was as white as snow. Her pair of dim and lifeless eyes that were filled with weakness had also regained their vigor, becoming bright and full of divine light. The Radiant Saint Force origin energy, controlled by the artifact spirit, was far more powerful than Jianqin's. Not only had he healed a Class 7 magical beast who was on the brink of death in such a short amount of time, but even her weak soul had recovered to its peak condition. Rum Guinness slowly stood up from the ground. Although she had recovered from her wounds, she had not replenished the energy within her body at all. As a result, she was still very weak. Even standing up was rather difficult for her. Rum Guinness' body constantly changed. She returned to her human form very soon, turning into an extremely sturdy, middle-aged woman. "Thank you for saving my life. If you hadn't arrived in time, not only would I have never been able to see my child again, I wouldn't even have been able to survive. I, Rum Guinness, am unable to repay the kindness you've shown us." Rum Guinness thanked Jianqin gratefully. Jianqin smiled without minding it at all. "Senior, there's no need for you to be so polite. However, I've made you suffer in the past few years. I've made you wait here for so long before your wounds are completely healed." With that, Jianqin looked at the White Tiger and said, "Senior, it's been many years since the two of you have seen each other. You must have a lot to talk about. We won't disturb you any longer. You can have a proper gathering." With that, Jianqin and Yu directly walked out of the hall, leaving enough space for Rum Guinness and her child. After Jianqin and Yu left, Rum Guinness' gaze immediately fell on the awe-inspiring White Tiger. Naturally, she could tell with a single glance that her son was already a Class 7 magical beast, which made her sigh in amazement. When the White Tiger left her, he was still a cub that had not even opened his eyes. Now he had transformed into a powerful Class 7 magical beast. Just how shocking was his growth rate? Even Rum Guinness felt extremely shocked, accompanied by great excitement. Jianqin and Yu walked side by side. They walked out of the hall to a nearby hill and gazed at the world in the distance. Afterwards, they let out long sighs of relief. After saving the heavily injured Rum Guinness and reuniting the white tiger and her child, he had basically fulfilled a wish that had been hidden in his heart for many years. Yu stood quietly beside Jianchen, hugging one of Jianchen's arms with her arms. Her beautiful eyes flickered as she constantly studied this wondrous world that was clearly different from the outside world. Jianchen, where is this place? Yu gently opened her mouth, producing a voice that was as pleasant as a lark's. This is the artifact space. Jianchen explained the matter of the artifact space to Yu. Immediately, Yu came to a realization, widening her horizons. She was amazed. At this moment, a powerful pulse of energy emitted from the palace, permeating the entire artifact space. All the Class 7 magical beasts in the artifact space sensed it and immediately looked in the direction of the palace in surprise. Jianchen also looked in the direction of the pulse of energy. He could faintly sense the pressure of the world mixed within it. This was a phenomenon that would only occur when using Heaven-tier battle skills or Saint-tier battle skills. It's newbies. Looks like he's already made some progress with the Saint-tier battle skill he's been researching. Jianchen softly murmured. However, he also understood that Saint-tier battle skills were extremely profound and difficult to grasp. Not to mention that newbies was still modifying the battle skill, which made it even more difficult. Although he had already made some progress, he was still quite some time away from truly succeeding. Before long, a white figure flashed by. The white tiger arrived beside Jianchen with Rum Guinness. As soon as she arrived before Jianchen, Rum Guinness immediately knelt before him and constantly kowtowed. Benefactor, thank you for protecting my child. I've already learnt about what you've been through in the past few years from the child. Not only did you suffer the pursuit of the ruler of the Jinlian clan to protect my child, you were even forced to leave the Tian Yuan continent by the 10 protector clans. I, Rum Guinness, will repay your kindness with my life. I, Rum Guinness, am willing to do anything for you. Senior, please get up. Jianchen hurriedly helped Rum Guinness up. Although he was more powerful than Rum Guinness now, Jianchen still felt respect for Rum Guinness, which was why he called her senior. This was because Rum Guinness was a great mother. Just that alone was enough for Jianchen to respect. Afterward, Jianchen and Rum Guinness exchanged some pleasantries before letting her recuperate properly. They would leave once she recovered her strength. Roar! The white tiger stared at Rum Guinness and produced a deep roar. Its eyes were filled with intense hatred. Rum Guinness rubbed the white tiger's head and said, Child, we obviously have to avenge your father, but the ruler of the Jinlian clan is extremely powerful. He's a Class 8 magical beast. With our current strength, we're not his opponent. Child, once you become a Class 8 magical beast in the future, we'll kill our way to the Jinlian clan and avenge your father. Rum Guinness' voice was filled with intense hatred towards the end. In the past, her husband had died to the ruler of the Jinlian clan in order to protect her and her child's escape. His soul had been destroyed. Chapter 998. Rum Guinness glanced at Jianchen in doubt, as if she wanted to see through Jianchen's strength. However, she was unable to see through Jianchen at her current level of cultivation. Jianchen seemed to have become an ordinary person in her eyes. We are extremely grateful for your assistance, but the ruler of the Gilligan clan is just too powerful. He also has the support of many Class 7 magical beasts, so we can't take the risk so easily before we have absolute confidence in victory, said Rum Guinness. Although she had gained a rough understanding of Jianchen's experiences in the past few years from the White Tiger, she still had no idea about Jianchen's exact strength. However, Rum Guinness guessed that Jianchen was only an Earth Saint Master when she first met him all those years ago. She did not take someone like that seriously at all. No matter how great Jianchen's talent was, it was impossible for him to surpass her in such a short amount of time. As for why she could see through Jianchen's strength, Rum Guinness had already attributed it to the protection of some treasures. After all, the artifact space before her was a very good example. Jianchen could not help but smile when he saw Rum Guinness' lack of confidence. He said, "Senior, your worries are unnecessary. Although the ruler of the Gilligan clan is a Class 8 magical beast and is comparable to our human Holy Emperor, he can only be regarded as someone who has just reached the level of a Holy Emperor. I obviously have my ways to deal with him. He's not a threat to us. Is this true? Do we already possess the power to fend off the Gilligan clan?" Rum Guinness asked in surprise as excitement filled her face. Jianchen nodded and said, "Senior, you should go recover your strength first. Once you're in peak condition, we'll immediately set off for the Cross Mountains and kill our way to the Gilligan clan. We'll avenge the White Tiger's father and your husband." Afterwards, Rum Guinness returned to the hall to recover her strength. Jianchen did not disturb Newbies, who was comprehending battle skills. He strolled around the artifact space with Yu. The artifact space had existed for several 100,000 years already. After such a long period of change, countless magical beasts had been born. Although all the Class 8 magical beasts had left, there were still quite a few Class 7 magical beasts present. These Class 7 magical beasts were born in the artifact space, so they would die in the artifact space. Although they all knew that there was another world outside the artifact space, they could not leave because they were basically trapped in the artifact space. Unless they could break through to Class 9 and become existences like the Holy Emperor, they would never be able to see the outside world for the rest of their lives. There are quite a few Class 7 magical beasts in the artifact space. If they're used properly, they'll be an extremely powerful force, Jianchen thought. He had already begun to plan for the Class 7 magical beasts, but after thinking about it carefully, he decided to give up for now. If he took the Class 7 magical beasts out, the first ones to suppress him would probably be the 10 Protector clans. He knew very well that the Protector clans would never allow so many Class 7 magical beasts to appear on the Tianyuan continent, and it was even more impossible for them to be used by him to increase the strength of the Protector clans in Changyang Prefecture. Although he no longer feared the Protector clans, that was all because he had the support of Ruijin and Blackfish. If the two of them were no longer present, it would be very difficult for the Protector clans in Changyang Prefecture to fend off the other Protector clans. Once my strength grows to the point where I can directly oppose the Protector clans, I'll be able to subdue these Class 7 magical beasts and use them for myself, Jianchen thought. His gaze became extremely determined. He was unwilling to waste such a tremendous amount of energy in the artifact space. However, he still could not use it right now. There were quite a few aged heavenly resources in the artifact space. Jianchen used the past few days to properly collect them. He had obtained a large amount of heavenly resources, planning on using them to hire alchemists to refine pills in the future to increase the strength of the flame mercenaries. At the same time, he could raise a group of loyal people. The heavenly resources he had obtained from the Grand Elder of Mercenary City had all been used up by the White Tiger. Not a single one remained. So Jianchen did not have any extra heavenly resources aside from the aged dragon's saliva grass. During the past few days, Jianchen saw the Class 7 Black Crow beast again. When Jianchen participated in the trial in the artifact space as a Radiant Saint Master, he had killed many of the Black Crow Beast King's descendants, resulting in some grievances. If it were not for the fact that all the magical beasts above Class 7 had been trapped by the artifact spirit back then, the Black Crow Beast King probably would have charged out and ripped Jianchen to pieces long ago. However, today was different. When Jianchen saw the Class 7 magical beast again, it no longer dared to show any displeasure towards Jianchen. Instead, it bowed politely towards Jianchen. Jianchen did not make things difficult for the Class 7 magical beast. After all, the Black Crow Beast King might become a great general under his command in the future. A few days later, Rum Guinness made a full recovery. She returned to her peak condition and left with Jianchen. Jianchen left the artifact space with Yu and the white tiger, returning to the cave. As soon as he appeared, he saw Ruijin and Black Fish seated nearby. The two of them had been waiting there silently for the past few days. Ruijin and Black Fish slowly opened their eyes and stood up at the same time. They glanced at Rum Guinness indifferently as a sliver of surprise appeared in their deep eyes. Although the two of them did not take Rum Guinness' strength seriously, her identity as the mother of the winged tiger was enough for them to treat her in a new light. Seniors, now that we've found the mother of the white tiger, we'll be going to the Cross Mountains for revenge. Please open the door for us, Jianchen said to the two of them. Ruijin remained silent for a while before replying, I've already gained a rough understanding of the current situation on the Tianyuan continent after spending a few days in Mercenary City. The Cross Mountains are an organization of the Beast God continent. It's extremely likely for the Beast God continent to react violently if you openly provoke them like this. Right now, we've basically become enemies with the experts of the Tianyuan continent and the Beast God continent. The Beast God continent has 3 Class 9 magical beasts, and 2 of them have always been eyeing the winged tiger. Although the other one stands with the winged tiger, we can't trust him completely. There's also the Holy Emperor on the Tianyuan continent. Although his path of emotions and desires can't do anything to Blackfish and me, his target is the winged tiger after all. If he works with the Class 9 magical beasts of the Beast God continent to deal with us, just me and Blackfish will struggle to stop them. As a result, we need to increase our strength right now. Senior Ruijin, do you plan on gathering all the Class 8 magical beasts that came out of the artifact space with you? Jianchen was overjoyed. I'm not talking about them. With their strength, they won't be able to fend off Class 9 magical beasts, even if they're gathered together. I'm talking about the divine Scorching Phoenix of the Divine Phoenix clan. Ruijin said before looking at Blackfish, Blackfish, you can go with Jianchen to the Cross Mountains. I'll go find Honglian first. If there's anything you can't handle, contact me using a secret technique. Blackfish nodded but said nothing. Ruijin left as soon as he said he would. He immediately ripped open a space gate and left. Blackfish did not remain idle either. He ripped open a space gate to the Cross Mountains as well, and left with Jianchen and the others. Jianchen stepped through the space gate with Yu in his arms. He instantly crossed several million kilometers and appeared outside the Cross Mountains. Afterwards, they all flew towards the depths of the Cross Mountains. At this moment, all the influential figures from the other 9 protector clans, aside from those from Changyang Prefecture, had gathered together to discuss something. Apart from the people from the Pure Heart Pavilion, who remained calm, everyone else frowned and became stern. This was not the first time they had gathered together like this. However, every time they gathered together, the goal was the same. It was either the winged tiger or Jianchen and Changyang Prefecture. Now that Jianchen had returned with the Divine Hall, even a great perfection expert like the Holy Emperor would not be able to threaten him. Coupled with the winged tiger by his side and his relationship with Changyang Prefecture, they all felt extremely threatened. Not to mention the fact that Jianchen now had 2 extremely terrifying experts, Ruijin and Blackfish, by his side, which made them feel even more uneasy. Although the protector clans were the ultimate power that protected the continent, they also needed to maintain a balance among themselves. They kept each other in check. Even if a single clan possessed the greatest strength, they could not cross the bottom line. The current situation of Changyang Prefecture had completely exceeded what they could endure. If Changyang Prefecture obtained the assistance of Ruijin and Blackfish, they would not be able to suppress them even if they worked together. Although they had the power to back them up, they could only use it against invaders, and when they encountered existences, they could not stop. On the Beast God continent, Kaiser and Lankiros were currently gathered on the 98th floor of the Beast God Hall. Their faces were sunken. Chapter 999. The bare-chested, muscular Lankiros also stood before Kaiser with an ugly expression. The light in his eyes flickered as he coldly said, Sangcheong's attitude towards the winged tiger is completely different from ours. If he's here, he'll ruin our plans sooner or later. His existence is a great threat to us. The light in Kaiser's eyes flickered as well. Only a while later did he reply with a heavy voice, If it were possible, I really would like to eliminate Sangcheong, but he's one of the 3 kings of our beast god continent after all. If he dies, the strength of our beast god continent will be greatly affected. Moreover, killing a class 9 magical beast is easier said than done. Not to mention that Sangcheong is a Peng. He's the fastest in the world and can move through space as he pleases. If he wants to escape, none of us can stop him. Then what do we do now? Do we just watch as the winged tiger rapidly matures in the hands of that human young man? Lankiros frowned. He was extremely stern. The winged tiger has matured far faster than I expected it to under the young man. I never thought it would become a class 7 magical beast in such a short amount of time. If it has a little more time, the winged tiger will reach a level where we won't be able to deal with it before long. At that time, it'll be a disaster for us. After all, we've harmed it in the past, and its father's death is related to us as well. Kaiser also frowned when he heard that. He was confident in his strength and did not fear any opponent. But there was no origin energy in this world anymore, so breaking through would be much more difficult than in the past. It was impossible for an existence that surpassed the Holy Emperor to appear, so it was basically impossible for the winged tiger to grow to a level where it could threaten him. However, the winged tiger was just too famous. It was the beast god of the beast god continent in ancient times. Its terror and talent could not be described with common sense. It was not something the beasts of ancient times could compare to. As a result, Kaiser became rather worried. King stood quietly in the center of the 98th floor of the beast god temple. He was silent for a long time. His eyes flickered as he hesitated. After a while, the king seemed to have finally made up his mind. His eyes suddenly narrowed, and he said in a low voice, The matter of the winged tiger can't be delayed any longer. It just so happens that the Holy Emperor of the human race also has his eyes on the winged tiger. We have the same goal as him, so perhaps we can join forces. Wukenlis hesitated for a moment before asking, Will he agree? If he wants to benefit from the winged tiger, he can only work with us. Otherwise, he won't be able to get anything. After all, there are 2 powerhouses beside that human youth that even I can't do anything to protect, King said in a deep voice. All right, let's go find the path, Lord of Carnal Desires, and discuss this matter, Wukenlis said helplessly. Afterward, Kaiser and Wukenlis left the Beast God Hall together. They ripped open a space gate and hurried to the Tianyuan continent. With the Holy Emperor's strength, it was impossible for the Protector clans to discover him as long as he did not cause too much of a disturbance. As a result, the agreement between the 2 continents was nothing more than a decoration to Kaiser and Wukenlis. After Kaiser and Wukenlis left, a ruddy old man silently appeared on the 97th floor of the Beast God Hall. He stared in the direction that Kaiser and Wukenlis had left in as his expression constantly changed. He was one of the 3 kings of the Beast God continent, the Holy Emperor of the Peng clan, Sangcheong. Sangcheong hovered in the air as he stared in the direction of the Tianyuan continent for a long time. In the end, he gently sighed and shook his head before returning to the Beast God Hall. His soft murmuring could be vaguely heard. The Emperor of the Dragon clan, the Golden Divine Dragon, is beside the winged tiger. He's protected because there won't be any danger. But where did the origin energy armor and weapons come from? In particular, the Sacred Dragon's Spear and Sacred Dragon's Armor are sacred artifacts of the Dragon clan. They disappeared with the Dragon clan and Phoenix clan long ago. So why have they suddenly appeared in his hands? And according to my understanding of the Dragon clan from the records, the Sacred Dragon's Spear and Sacred Dragon's Armor don't possess origin energy at all. In the depths of the Cross Mountain Range, there was a majestic palace that had been built. In the surroundings of the palace, Class 6 magical beasts would scurry about from time to time, entering and exiting the palace from time to time. There were many of them. Class 6 magical beasts that were extremely rare on the Tianyuan continent could be found everywhere. This was because this was where all the high-class magical beasts gathered. There were even quite a few Class 7 magical beasts that were almost extinct on the Tianyuan continent. This was the core of power in the Cross Mountains, the Gilligan clan. At this moment, a burly, bare-chested, middle-aged man sat on the ground and cultivated in a secret room of the Gilligan clan. He radiated with powerful ripples of energy, causing the space in the room to constantly tremble. He was one of the two kings of the Gilligan clan, the Tiger King, who had almost killed Gentian after leaving the Cross Mountains in the past. The terrifying ripples of energy in the surroundings slowly subsided. A while later, the Tiger King slowly opened his eyes. A sliver of extremely well-hidden weakness appeared in the depths of his eyes. "I wonder when I'll be able to recover to the second heavenly layer," the Tiger King murmured to himself. When he fought against Gentian in the past, he had been injured by a peak human expert at a crucial moment and had been forced to use a self-harming secret technique to escape. He was extremely heavily injured, and his strength had regressed from the second heavenly layer to the first heavenly layer. It was extremely difficult for him to recover, and even after so many years, he still had not fully recovered. The Tiger King stood up from the cold ground and paced back and forth in the secret chamber with a frown. There was a hint of solemnity between his brows. "I've suddenly felt uneasy in the past few days, as if something big is about to happen. It seems to be extremely bad for me. What's going on?" The Tiger King softly murmured as the light in his eyes flickered. He began to ponder as he repeatedly recalled what he had gone through in the past few years. Suddenly, the Tiger King's eyes narrowed as he murmured, "Is it because of the winged tiger? That's impossible. The winged tiger is still young and weak. He also has to face the threat of the 10 protector clans. It's already a miracle that he's still alive, so why would he make me feel uneasy?" In the past few years, the Tiger King had always been in seclusion to heal. He had basically been cut off from the outside world, so he did not know much about what had happened on the Tianyuan continent. Although he knew that the protector clans were searching for the winged tiger, he did not know that Jianqin and the winged tiger had already returned. The barrier around the room suddenly vanished. As the door opened, the Tiger King's majestic body vanished from the room as well. At this moment, a group of uninvited guests had arrived in the depths of the Cross Mountains, known as a forbidden zone for humans. Jianqin carried you as he fearlessly charged into the depths of the mountains with rum, Guinness, the white tiger, and blackfish. They aggressively flew toward where the Gilligan clan resided. They moved extremely quickly, shooting through the sky like meteors, vanishing in the blink of an eye. There were many Class 7 magical beasts in the depths of the Cross Mountains. The aggressive arrival of Jinshin's group obviously alarmed many of the nearby Class 7 magical beasts. Immediately, several powerful presences appeared from different directions. 6 humanoid Class 7 magical beasts flew toward Jinshin's group with lightning-like speed, blocking their path. One of the humanoid Class 7 magical beasts glared at Jinshin's group for a while before sternly calling out, "There's actually a human among you. Don't you know that the Cross Mountains forbids humans from entering? Anyone who trespasses in the depths of the mountains will be killed without mercy." As soon as he said that, he suddenly paused. 2 streaks of light immediately shot out from his eyes as he stared at Rum Guinness. He cried out, "Rum Guinness, why is it you?" The other Class 7 magical beasts all looked at Rum Guinness as well. Their expressions constantly changed, becoming extremely complicated. There was hatred and pity. Rum Guinness slowly made her way forward. She looked at the Class 7 magical beasts with some excitement and said bitterly, "Elders, it's been so many years. How have you been?" The Class 7 magical beasts glanced at each other before stepping forward one by one. They pointed at Rum Guinness and yelled, Rum Guinness, when the Tiger King said that you and your wife were colluding with humans to do something detrimental to our Gilligan clan. We didn't really believe him at first. But now, it seems that the Tiger King was telling the truth. You really were colluding with humans. Colluding with humans? Rum Guinness murmured before smiling miserably. It's fine if the Tiger King wants to kill us, but I never thought he'd accuse us of such a great crime. Rum Guinness, since you've already become a traitor of our Gilligan clan, you're our enemy. Elders, let's go together and kill this traitor. With that, the Class 7 magical beasts began to pulse with powerful energy. They were about to take action. Although they could not see through Gentian and Blackfish's strength, the depths of the Cross Mountains were their territory, so they did not fear them at all. Gentian's eyes turned cold. He was about to draw his Emperor armament. But at this moment, a deafening tiger's roar rang out from behind him. It was so loud that it reverberated through the surroundings, almost reaching the entire Cross Mountains. This tiger's roar contained a great pressure, as if a king who looked down on the world had descended, making all the people submit. This was the pressure of the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger. It suppressed the souls of all magical beasts. With the white tiger's roar, the entire Cross Mountains fell silent. All the magical beasts below Class 6 prostrated on the ground as fear filled their eyes. Even the Class 7 magical beasts were shocked. They all forgot to take action as they stared at the white tiger beside Rum Guinness in shock. Within the Gilligan clan, a white-robed, middle-aged man who was cultivating in a secret room suddenly snapped open his eyes. He leapt to his feet and stared into the distance in shock. He cried out, "The winged tiger god." Chapter 1000. The white tiger's furious roar alarmed the entire Cross Mountains. Without a doubt, it had an earth-shattering effect. Not only did all the Class 7 magical beasts in the Gilligan clan reveal different expressions, but even the two rulers of the clan were shocked. The expressions of the Class 7 magical beasts that wanted to attack Rum Guinness all changed drastically. They stared at the white tiger that had already unfurled its wings and hovered majestically in the air. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Is that the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger? A Class 7 magical beast elder in human form roared with all his might. The pressure from the little white tiger that made their souls tremble, as well as the unique characteristics of the wings on its back, allowed them to guess the little white tiger's identity almost instantly. After all, they were magical beasts, and they were all Class 7 magical beasts. If the little white tiger appeared in front of a human expert, they might not be able to recognize it. However, if it appeared in front of any Class 7 magical beast, then its identity would no longer be a secret, unless the little white tiger could restrain its aura. How is this possible? How is this possible? The great winged tiger has actually appeared again, a Class 7 magical beast cried out. It has wings on its back and can make me tremble from the depths of my soul. It can't be wrong, it can't be wrong. It really is the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger that only appeared in ancient times. Our great god of magical beasts, the winged tiger, has actually appeared again. The Class 7 magical beasts on the other side all cried out in excitement. The winged tiger's supreme status among magical beasts was irreplaceable. Even the three sovereigns of the beast god continent were unable to replace it because it was the indisputable beast god of the beast god continent. It was the god in the hearts of all magical beasts. Even after countless years, its prestige had not weakened at all. As a result, the Class 7 magical beasts became excited after confirming the identity of the white tiger. They were no longer as murderous as before. We pay our respects to the mighty beast god. The several seventh step magical beasts in human form all knelt down and saluted. Their voices were filled with respect. Elders, please rise. The one who spoke was Rum Guinness, who was standing behind the white tiger. But the elders did not appreciate it. One of them looked at Rum Guinness angrily and roared, "Rum Guinness, you betrayed the beast men. What right do you have to speak to us? Now that the god of the beastmen, the winged tiger, is here, you will receive the punishment of the beastmen. Grief appeared in Rum Guinness's eyes. She slowly walked to the side of the white tiger and gently stroked the white tiger's head to soothe the white tiger's rage. The white tiger didn't resist. It slowly withdrew the powerful aura it was emitting and closed its eyes with a look of enjoyment. The Class 7 magical beasts, kneeling in the air, watched this scene with their mouths agape. Their faces were filled with shock and disbelief. What kind of status did the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger, have? How could it tolerate being stroked like this? However, not only did the winged tiger not resist at all, it even closed its eyes in enjoyment. This scene directly made the Class 7 magical beasts who knelt in the air doubt their eyes. Rum Guinness actually has such a close relationship with the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger. What should we do? If that's the case, how should we punish Rum Guinness for betraying the beastmen? The Class 7 magical beasts all began to worry. Elders, do you really think that I, Rum Guinness, have betrayed the beastmen? Have you never doubted whether the Tiger King's words are true or not? Rum Guinness said in pain. When the Class 7 magical beasts heard what Rum Guinness said, they immediately became stunned. They looked at each other, and one of them asked, Rum Guinness, could it be that there's more to your betrayal of the Gilligan clan? The eyes of the other Class 7 magical beasts were fixed on Rum Guinness, waiting for Rum Guinness's answer. Rum Guinness nodded and said, There is indeed more to this matter. The fact that my wife and I betrayed the Gilligan clan and the beastmen was a lie made up by the Tiger King. The Tiger King's goal is to get rid of our family. You've all been tricked by the Tiger King. Hearing Rum Guinness's words, the several Class 7 magical beast elders were shocked. What? This is a lie made up by the Tiger King. The Tiger King's goal is to get rid of you? Rum Guinness, are you sure you're not lying to us? Rum Guinness, do you have any basis for saying that? The Tiger King has no enmity with you, not to mention that your husband is the Tiger King's brother. Why would the Tiger King want to get rid of you? Rum Guinness, if you don't give us a reasonable explanation, we won't believe you, said the Class 7 magical beasts. Many of them did not believe Rum Guinness' words. After all, the Tiger King was one of the 2 kings of the Gilligan clan. His prestige was just too great in the eyes of the elders. Rum Guinness looked at the white tiger beside her and immediately became benevolent. She slowly said, It's all because of my child. Because my child is the ancient divine beast-winged tiger. What? The ancient divine beast-winged tiger is your child? As soon as Rum Guinness said that, the elders cried out in shock and disbelief. They all looked between the winged tiger and Rum Guinness in shock. The news was just too shocking to them. It was no different from a bolt from the blue. At this moment, the elders of the Gilligan clan could not be more shocked. None of them dared to believe that the winged tiger was actually Rum Guinness' child. At this moment, several dozen tremendous presences appeared in all directions. The white tiger's roar had rang through the entire Cross Mountains, alarming all the high-class magical beasts there. All the Class 7 magical beasts hurried over from various places. In a single moment, over 40 people of various ages gathered around Gentian's group. They all radiated with tremendous presences. They were all Class 7 magical beasts in human form. Yu immediately became rather nervous when she was surrounded by over 40 Class 7 magical beasts. However, she only relaxed slightly when she saw the composed Gentian beside her. After all, they were not facing a group of human experts on the Tianyuan continent this time. Instead, they were facing a group of infamous Class 7 magical beasts in the depths of the Cross Mountains, known as a forbidden zone for humans. As soon as the Class 7 magical beasts arrived, all of them stared at the majestic winged tiger with the wings on its back. They all became surprised and doubtful. A winged tiger. It really is a winged tiger. That's the god of our magical beasts, the winged tiger. I never thought that after so many years, the winged tiger would finally appear again. Very soon, a few of the Class 7 magical beasts recognized the winged tiger. They immediately cried out in excitement, overjoyed. However, the expressions of some Class 7 magical beasts changed slightly, becoming rather ugly. Chapter 1001. Greetings to the great beast god. A Class 7 magical beast in human form knelt down in the air and cried out in excitement. Jianshan glanced at the Class 7 magical beast, and his indifferent gaze immediately narrowed. He recognized this Class 7 magical beast. It was the ape king of the spiritual apes that he had met many years ago at the edge of the Cross Mountains. He had even obtained a large amount of heavenly resources and the extremely precious 100 herb wine from the ape king. With the ape king taking the lead, the rest of the magical beasts of the seventh step, who worshipped the winged tiger god as their god, did not hesitate either. They all bent their knees and knelt down in the air, shouting in unison, "We greet the mighty beast god." Seeing so many people kneel down, the faces of the Class 7 magical beasts that had changed when they saw the winged tiger changed slightly as well. In the end, they obediently knelt down and cried out like the other Class 7 magical beasts. However, there was not the slightest hint of excitement in their voices. Instead, they were extremely calm. In the blink of an eye, all the Class 7 magical beasts that had rushed over aggressively from the depths of the Cross Mountains all knelt down in the air. It was as if the winged tiger was the only thing in their eyes. As for Rum, Guinness, and Jianshan, who stood beside the winged tiger, they completely ignored them. Jianshan suddenly looked into the distance, and a gleam of light immediately flashed through his eyes. He saw a white-robed, middle-aged man with a scholarly air slowly flying over from the distance. The middle-aged man was plain and did not give off any presence at all. Just like Black Fish, he seemed like an ordinary person. He had also concealed his presence. Although the middle-aged man had concealed his presence, Jianshan's soul was extremely powerful. Under the powerful senses of his soul, he could clearly see through the middle-aged man's strength. The Holy Emperor, second heavenly layer. Jianshan thought to himself, but he did not take it to heart. With his current strength, such an expert was no longer a threat to him. The middle-aged man flew straight to the front of the group of Class 7 magical beasts and looked at the winged tiger with a complicated gaze. He did not kneel like the other Class 7 magical beasts, but only bowed and said in a calm tone, "Greetings to the great beast god." This middle-aged man was much calmer than those 7th-grade magical beasts. After bowing to the winged tiger, he glanced at Jianshan and the others. Although he could see that Jianshan and you were humans, his expression was quite calm, without showing the slightest trace of hatred. Rum Guinness's expression became complicated when he saw the middle-aged man. He hesitated for a moment before bowing to the middle-aged man. "Rum Guinness greets the Punk King." Jianshan's heart immediately skipped a beat when he heard how Rum Guinness addressed the middle-aged man. He thought, the Punk King? The Jinlijian clan has 2 kings. One of them is the Tiger King. Is this middle-aged man the 2nd king of the Jinlijian clan? The Punk King looked at Rum Guinness, and a gentle smile immediately appeared on his calm face. He said, "Rum Guinness, welcome home. It's been tough for you in the past few years." The Punk King knew exactly how Rum Guinness and her husband had been hunted down by the Tiger King. However, the matter was controlled by the king of the Beast God continent, so he could not stop it. He could not stop it either. All he could do was let it develop and watch the couple suffer the wrath of the Tiger King. "You're being too serious, Punk King. I'm no longer a part of the Jinlijian clan." Rum Guinness's voice was rather cold. Although the Punk King had not taken part in the hunt, she did not know where the Punk King stood. As a result, she was still on guard against the Punk King. She even felt some hatred towards him. The Rock King could naturally feel Rum Guinness's attitude towards him. An elder actually dared to be so rude to him. If this matter was in the past, the Rock King would definitely not be nice to her, but now it was different. Rum Guinness was the mother of the winged tiger. Her status was completely different from before. Even the king of the Jinlijian clan had to treat her politely, not daring to offend her at all. As a result, the Pung King could only smile indifferently when he saw Rum Guinness' cold attitude. He said nothing more. Suddenly, a vast and powerful presence appeared. A burly, bare-chested, middle-aged man rapidly flew over from afar. His face was extremely gloomy and his eyes were cold. Intense killing intent flickered in them. Genshin's eyes sharpened at that moment. They were as sharp as an unsheathed sword. He stared in the direction of the presence as chilling killing intent appeared in his eyes. Although they were very far away, he could tell with a single glance that the person was one of the two kings of the Jinlijian clan, the Tiger King, who had left the Cross Mountains many years ago to hunt down the white tiger and almost killed him. In the blink of an eye, the Tiger King arrived before everyone. He stood beside the Pung King in the air, facing Genshin and the others from 50 meters away. As soon as she saw the Tiger King, Rum Guinness's eyes filled with overwhelming hatred. She gritted her teeth and said, "Tiger King, you didn't think that I, Rum Guinness, would still be alive, right? Today, the two of us will personally kill you and tear you to pieces to avenge my husband." Rum Guinness was extremely agitated. The Tiger King did not pay any attention to Rum Guinness. Instead, he gloomily stared at the little white tiger. A light flashed through his eyes as he thought to himself, "The winged tiger god's growth rate is truly frightening. I never thought that he would be able to grow from a newborn beast to a 7th rank magical beast in such a short amount of time. If I were to give him a Class 7 magical beast, reaching Class 8 would be a piece of cake for him. Fortunately, he hasn't reached Class 8 yet, so he's not a threat to me." Afterwards, the Tiger King glanced past Genshin and the others, directly ignoring the weak Yu. However, when his gaze landed on Genshin and Blackfish, his eyes narrowed by an undetectable amount. This was because he could not tell the strength of Genshin and Blackfish at all. Genshin's presence had already been concealed by the holy artifact, so it was impossible for the Tiger King to see through it with his abilities. As for Blackfish, he was an expert at great perfection of the Holy Emperor, surpassing the 9th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. If he concealed his presence, the Tiger King would not be able to tell. When I saw Genshin last time, he was only at the 3rd heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. In just a few years, no matter how great his talent is, it's impossible for him to reach a level where I can't see through him. And the two of them are standing towards the back, so they're clearly not important people. Looks like the two of them have used special methods to hide their presences, so they're not very powerful. They're just trying to act mysterious, the Tiger King thought. The Tiger King thought to himself, and his slightly nervous mood immediately relaxed. Then his gaze fell on Rum Guinness and the little white tiger mother and son again, and his eyes flickered with uncertainty. Genshin sneered. "Tiger King, you probably never thought that we would meet again so soon, right? Last time, you came to the Tianyuan continent from the Cross Mountains to find me, but this time I came to the depths of the Cross Mountains to find you. Last time, you heavily injured me and almost killed me. This enmity is absolutely irreconcilable. Today, I, Genshin, will take revenge." Hearing this, the elders of the Gilligan family raised their heads and looked at the Tiger King, their eyes full of surprise. The Gilligan clan had an agreement with the humans. All magical beasts above Class 7 were forbidden from setting foot on the Tianyuan continent, or they would be mercilessly slain by the human experts. Although the Gilligan clan was the most powerful organization in the depths of the Cross Mountains, their true strength was only on par with the ancient clans of the human race. They were not the opponents of the humans at all. The reason why they were able to occupy a place here was all because of the Beast God continent. As a result, the Tianyuan continent was a forbidden land to the elders of the Jinlijian clan. However, they had never thought that the former Tiger King would actually step into the Tianyuan continent without any regard for the consequences. They were in disbelief over this. The Tiger King was immediately angered by Jianshin's words. If it were not for Jianshin protecting the winged tiger with his life, the winged tiger would have ended up in his hands long ago. He would never have alarmed the human experts and forced him to use a secret technique to flee, causing his strength to fall from the second heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor to the first heavenly layer. He still had not recovered even now. "Humph, you dare to say something like that? How arrogant. You ruined my plans last time, so I let you live a few more years. Since you dare to set foot in the Cross Mountains today, don't even think about leaving this place alive." The Tiger King gritted his teeth. The Tiger King gritted his teeth. He blamed everything on Jianshin, so he felt great resentment towards Jianshin. "Tiger King, since you're so confident, then do it. I'd like to see just how you'll make me remain in the Cross Mountains forever." Jianshin sneered as killing intent surged in his eyes. "Don't be so arrogant. I'll deal with you once I've cleaned up the clan," the Tiger King said gloomily. Then he looked at Rum Guinness and said coldly, "Rum Guinness, you are an elder of the Gilligan clan, but you colluded with humans. This is unforgivable. You will be put to death." As soon as he finished speaking, the Tiger King suddenly appeared next to Rum Guinness. Surging energy gushed out from his palm, and he struck out with his palm. The strike was not aimed at Rum Guinness. Instead, it was aimed at the winged tiger beside Rum Guinness. The Pumpkin's eyes narrowed as he gently sighed inside. He did not plan on taking action. He did not dare to take action because the implications of this matter were just far too great. It was no longer a battle between him and the Tiger King. If he took action, it would directly affect the Beast God continent.